Chapter 4672. At this moment, near the huge Lingyun side palace, millions of Aoran chi pillars were still roaring in the stalactite palace. Countless clouds condensed and flashed with a dazzling brilliance. This brilliance was like the sun and the moon, illuminating the entire space. However, where there was light, there was also darkness. The darkness was like the wrinkles of time, occasionally appearing where there was light. Within the wrinkles, there would occasionally be many black spots. These black spots were either hidden in the void or in the darkness. They didn't emit any magic power fluctuations. They were really like black spots that couldn't be easily discovered. However, where the black spot was, the light was swallowed up by the wind of time. Strands of light that seemed to be hollowed out were produced in an uncanny manner. They were like flowers blooming in the multicolored light screen. When the layers of black spots gradually became denser, within the Aoran chi pillars, a fist-sized black shadow appeared. This shadow wasn't full. Instead, it was like a thin image. However, this shadow gradually elongated and could be seen clearly. Wasn't this the world-destroying strange insect that Xiaohua mentioned? Half of this strange insect's size was its head. There were two long antennae on its head, which were swaying at will. As the antennae swayed, the flake-like shadow strangely folded and extended in the light. After a while, the strange insect seemed to have swallowed the light, and its entire body began to bulge. However, it only bulged a few inches. In the middle of the strange worm's body, layers of grayish patches had just appeared when the entire body of the strange worm collapsed. Soon after, the shattered pieces transformed into even smaller illusionary figures that hurriedly seeped into the multicolored light. The halberd-like hind legs of each illusionary figure flashed with a bright light that was different from the multicolored light. The supreme experts of the three continents gathered in the Lingyun side palace to discuss how to resist the strange insect from the outer realm. They thought that the strange insect from the outer realm invaded the three continents from the boundary of the world. They didn't expect that the strange insect from the outer realm had invaded the three continents through the veins of the void. Now, it had already spread throughout the void of the three continents. Immortal Palace, Thunderclap Temple, Dragon Island, and the Great Holy Temple wanted to set up a defense line between the three continents and the four seas. But now the three continents had become a defenseless slaughterhouse. Immortal Emperor Go Qian was in charge of the side palace, but due to his carelessness, he didn't notice this anomaly. The Grand Mist Ancestor was even more unaware of this matter. At this time, he had already passed through the side door of the side palace and was greeted by the sight of 5 majestic mountains towering under the blue dome of heaven. A vigorous feeling immediately rose from the bottom of his heart as if his blood was boiling. The Grand Mist Ancestor opened his mouth and let out a long roar. His body suddenly expanded and turned into 2 black and white rays of light that shot towards the top of the thunderbolt where Xiaohua was. Humph! Xiaohua didn't say anything, but the lightning Taoist was a little displeased. He snorted coldly, and 100 zhang long lightning bolt appeared in front of the Grand Mist Ancestor with a loud boom. "Ha! Thunderbolt Immortal, are you welcoming me?" The Grand Mist Ancestor laughed heartily and rubbed his hands together. "Gotcha!" More than 10 black and white rays of light appeared in the space around him and landed on the lightning bolt like stars surrounding the moon. It was very strange. Zzz. A sound similar to cold water falling into a pot of hot oil rang out. The black and white rays of light actually penetrated the lightning bolt and turned into threads of light that completely entangled the lightning bolt. Amidst the crackling sound, the 100 zhang long lightning bolt collapsed and disappeared. However, the moment the lightning bolt disappeared, a scarlet-red lightning bolt pounced out like a spirit snake and slammed into the Grand Mist Ancestor's left shoulder with lightning speed. Boom! The golden light barrier around the Grand Mist Ancestor's body flickered and blocked the lightning. However, the Grand Mist Ancestor's body staggered as he came to a stop. The smug look on his face was replaced with shock, shame, and anger. Fellow Taoist Thunderbolt, the Grand Mist Ancestor stood there and lowered his head to look at the golden light on his left shoulder. What is the meaning of this? A brat who hasn't reached the peak of the Grand Ascension realm dares to stand shoulder to shoulder with me? The lightning Taoist didn't know any modesty and scolded without any trace of politeness. Haha. Xiao Hua laughed and said, fellow Taoist Grand Mist, although the lightning Taoist's words aren't pleasant to hear, he has good intentions. Don't forget, today you and I are guests at the High Cloudside Hall. If you want to sit down, I'm afraid you have to see Immortal Emperor Gochen first, right? If you come here directly, it will be rude and make the Confucian cultivators, Buddhist sect, and demon races experts laugh at you. Damn it. The Grand Mist ancestor cursed in his heart. Of course, he knew that he had to see Immortal Emperor Gochen before entering the Lightning Mountain, but he didn't plan to sit down first. However, before he could get close, the Thunderbolt Immortal blocked his way. The Grand Mist ancestor took a deep breath and cupped his hands towards the Lightning Taoist. I see. Then this old man is wrong. This old man thanks fellow Taoist Thunderbolt for reminding me. The Grand Mist ancestor then bowed towards the Scroll Mountain, where Immortal Emperor Gochen and Dongfang Qiong Hao were at. Grand Mist ancestor greets the Immortal Emperor. Although the 5 mountains were quite far apart, the people and demons could see each other clearly under the sky. Immortal Emperor Gochen saw the Grand Mist ancestor's respectful attitude and said with a smile, Grand Mist ancestor, we haven't seen each other for a long time. The Grand Mist ancestor was stunned and puzzled. He asked curiously, how? Didn't I just see your majesty at the Longevity Town? Immortal Emperor Gochen said meaningfully, the meeting at that time. Is it considered a meeting? The Grand Mist ancestor didn't understand what Immortal Emperor Gochen meant. Immortal Emperor Gochen didn't dare to explain. He raised his hand and the jade eye that the Grand Mist ancestor took out appeared in his palm. Immortal Emperor Gochen waved his hand disdainfully. The jade eye was carried by a cloud and slowly floated in front of the Grand Mist ancestor. This emperor doesn't care to take out such an eyesore. Immortal Emperor Gochen smiled faintly and raised his hand again. Another 2 jade eyes with 3 colors appeared out of nowhere. 2 clouds streaked across the sky, and the jade eyes were delivered to Xiao Hua and the Grand Mist ancestor respectively. When the Grand Mist ancestor received the jade eyes and scanned them with his divine sense, a look of shock appeared on his face. He hurriedly raised his head, but he didn't look at Immortal Emperor Gochen. Instead, he looked directly at Xiao Hua. At this time, Xiao Hua also raised his head with a meaningful smile on his face. His gaze collided with the Grand Mist ancestors in mid-air. It was just like the collision outside the Star Moon Palace in the blink of an eye. Damn it! The Grand Mist ancestor gritted his teeth. He seemed to have understood something from Xiao Hua's gaze and cursed inwardly. Black and white lights flashed in the Grand Mist ancestor's palm, and the jade eye instantly turned into nothingness. Not even a speck of dust was left behind. Xiao Hua chuckled as he carefully placed the jade eye pearl into his bosom, and he retracted his warning gaze from the Grand Mist ancestor. Your Majesty, what is the meaning of this? The Grand Mist ancestor raised his head and looked at Immortal Emperor Gochen. This emperor has many meanings. Do you want to hear them one by one? At this point, Immortal Emperor Gochen actually kept the Grand Mist ancestor in suspense. The Grand Mist ancestor nodded and replied, That's right. First, Immortal Emperor Gochen said, This emperor wants to tell you not to play tricks in front of this emperor. Since you want to tell this emperor what it means to throw a rook to save the king, then this emperor will also tell you what it means to throw a brick to attract jade. The Grand Mist ancestor was about to vomit blood in his heart. He really regretted his action just now. Second, Immortal Emperor Gochen said slowly, This emperor wants to tell you that on this hidden immortal mainland, there is nothing that this emperor doesn't know. Don't think that you are doing things secretly and that this emperor knows everything that you do. The reason you can come here is not because this emperor saw your sincerity and let you in. It is because Taoist Xiao of the Fortune Gate repeatedly let you in, saying that you are also a member of the Tao Gate, one of the cultivators of the 3 mainlands. Now that the 3 mainlands are facing the threat of destruction, you should be able to help. Therefore, this emperor let you in. Since you are willing to announce your power to the public, then this emperor might as well help you and pull your relationship with the Fortune Gate closer. Yes, many thanks, Your Majesty. Your Majesty is still the most considerate. Although the Grand Mist Ancestor was gritting his teeth, he could only swallow them down. Third, Immortal Emperor Go-chan continued, because before you entered the Lingyun Side Hall, this Emperor's Immortal Palace, the Dragon Clan's Dragon Island, the Demonic Clan's Great Sage Hall, and the Buddhist sect's Thunder Sound Temple had already reached a consensus. Similarly, the Dao Gate will participate in the war against the alien insects as an independent force. Moreover, if we kill the alien insects, the Dao Gate will be able to establish a sect outside the Western Sea. Really? The Grand Mist Ancestor asked in disbelief. Happiness seemed to have come too suddenly, and the Grand Mist Ancestor couldn't take it anymore. Immortal Emperor Go-chan said unhappily, "This emperor has a mouth of gold and jade. How can I lie to you? Since your Dao Gate can develop as you wish, there is no need for you to hide your forces. Why don't you just take them out and be as open as the Fortune Gate?" Yes, I understand. The Grand Mist Ancestor nodded repeatedly. However, Immortal Emperor Go-chin's words were like a bucket of cold water that extinguished the Grand Mist Ancestor's fire. Immortal Emperor Go-chan continued, "Fourth, Taoist Shao of the Fortune Gate is the leader of our Dao Gate. Since you want to establish a sect and establish the Sky-Bearing Palace, how can you go against Taoist Shao?" This emperor gave the jade eyes to him to remove the knot in your heart so that you can work together better. Xiao Hua knew that this was Immortal Emperor Go-chin's plan to drive a wedge between them, but he also benefited from it. He didn't say anything and just looked at the Grand Mist Ancestor. Today, the Grand Mist Ancestor was bullied miserably by Immortal Emperor Go-chan. The corner of his mouth twitched a few times, and before he could erase the shadow in his heart from the leader of the Dao Gate, he smiled and said, "Yes, Your Majesty's good intentions, I appreciate it. Previously, I didn't know Your Majesty's decree, so I took out the jade eyes. Since Your Majesty has already given the decree, I don't need to hide anything from Taoist Shao." "That's good." Immortal Emperor Go-chen smiled as if he was harmless to humans and animals. He continued, "Fifth, at this time, not to mention the Grand Mist Ancestor, even Xiao Hua and the others were stunned. They didn't expect Immortal Emperor Go-chen to say so many reasons, so everyone unconsciously pricked up their ears. "Fifth, this emperor wants to tell you that not only is there nothing I don't know about in the hidden immortal continent, there is also nothing I can't do." Immortal Emperor Go-chen's tone suddenly turned cold as he said, "In the past, this emperor was able to capture you, and today, this emperor will also capture you. Moreover, it's not that this emperor couldn't kill you that day. The reason why this emperor joined forces with the demon race and Buddhist sect to suppress you is not because your cultivation is too high, and we can't kill you, but because immortal." Immortal? Immortal? Immortal Emperor Go-chen's words were like a stick, hitting the Grand Mist Ancestor silly. He looked at Immortal Emperor Go-chen with a puzzled expression and asked curiously. At this time, the Grand Mist Ancestor's imposing manner when he entered the Ling Yun Side Palace had been dispelled by Immortal Emperor Go-chen as if it was nothing. "Yes, immortal." Immortal Emperor Go-chen said coldly, "Previously, because there was an immortal, this emperor wouldn't easily make a move on you. Now that the immortal has left, if you have any evil intentions, don't blame this emperor for being impolite." Boom. If the previous words were like cold water splashing on the face, Immortal Emperor Go-chen's words were like a thunderbolt. In an instant, the Grand Mist Ancestor fell from the sky into the abyss. In the time it took for a spark to fly off a flint, the Grand Mist Ancestor went through his encounter with Su Ji, and all the various signs pointed to Su Ji was the immortal mentioned by Immortal Emperor Go-chen. Why didn't I think of it?" The Grand Mist Ancestor muttered in a low voice, and his face was ashen. Since he is an immortal, why? Why can't he help our Dao sect? Why can't he? The Grand Mist Ancestor said "can't" a few times, until finally, he raised his head angrily, looked at Xiao Hua, and shouted, "Xiao Hua, do you know about this?" The Grand Mist Ancestor's eyes were filled with anger, but Xiao Hua could clearly see the vicious resentment in that anger. Fairy Xing Yu had clearly described the Grand Mist Ancestor's character, so how could Xiao Hua not know that the Grand Mist Ancestor's anger was just an act? The viciousness behind that anger was his true intention. Why would I tell the truth to a person who has already lost his chance? Xiao Hua replied lazily, since this person has already given up on his promise and thinks that he can hold up the sky with one hand, why would others still help him? While speaking, Xiao Hua turned to look at Immortal Emperor Go Chen again. Since Fairy Xing you understood the Grand Mist Ancestor's character, how could Immortal Emperor Go Chen not understand? Immortal Emperor Go Chen had not mentioned the word immortal in front of the Eastern Sea Dragon King and Dongfang Qianghao. So why did he mention it when the Grand Mist Ancestor appeared? Obviously, Immortal Emperor Go Chen wanted to tell the Grand Mist Ancestor that the Immortal was with Xiao Hua before he left. It was very likely that the Immortal had left many things for Xiao Hua, and these things could have originally belonged to the Grand Mist Ancestor. If it was someone else, they might not have been fooled. However, although the Grand Mist Ancestor was already a cultivator of the 9th level of origin energy, his character would not change. He would not judge others by his own standards. He could only be the kind of person who would rather betray the world than let the world betray him. Therefore, if the Grand Mist Ancestor hated Xiao Hua very much before, it was probably 100% now. Sure enough, the Grand Mist Ancestor closed his eyes slightly after hearing Xiao Hua's words. Then, he took a deep breath and bowed respectfully in one direction. Then, he bowed deeply to Xiao Hua and said, "Thank you, fellow Taoist Xiao, for accompanying him on his last journey." You're welcome, you're welcome." Xiao Hua waved his sleeves and said indifferently, "This is what I should do." Finally, the Grand Mist Ancestor bowed again to Immortal Emperor Go Chen and said, "I will also write your Majesty's words." Haha, no need to be so polite. Immortal Emperor Go Chen looked at the Grand Mist Ancestor's performance and laughed with satisfaction. "You and I are going to form an alliance to fight against the world-destroying strange insect. How can we not be honest? Lightning Sage, may I take a seat?" After losing his composure, the Grand Mist Ancestor regained his fierce and ruthless demeanor and asked the Lightning Sage calmly, "What does it have to do with whether you want to sit or not?" The Lightning Sage did not give the Grand Mist Ancestor any face. "Many thanks, fellow Taoists." The Grand Mist Ancestor smiled faintly and landed on the Lightning Mountain peak. Layers of black and white light emerged from his body and intertwined to form a cloud that resembled a praying mat. The Grand Mist Ancestor sat down cross-legged on the praying mat. "Okay." Xiao Hua looked at the Grand Mist Ancestor's indifference, and a trace of vigilance appeared in his heart. He said, "Now that the other branch of our Tao Gate has arrived at the Lingyun Side Hall, it's time to discuss how to fight against the world-destroying strange insect." "Taoist Xiao." The Grand Mist Ancestor smiled and said, "When everyone was discussing, I wasn't around. How will our Tao Gate develop outside the Western Sea? How will we defend against the world-destroying strange insect outside the Western Sea?" Xiao Hua thought for a moment and summarized the previous discussion. In the end, he said, "As long as our Tao Gate can block the world-destroying strange insect outside the Western Sea and prevent it from harming the sea tribes and invading the Inner Sea, our Tao Gate will be able to develop freely outside the Western Sea." And the Grand Mist Ancestor nodded slightly. Previously, this old man was afraid that the Immortal Palace would use our Tao Gate as a puppet. Now, it seems that they are quite sincere. "Humph, with your sky-bearing palace's little strength, I wouldn't even bother to use it even if you were in front of me." The Immortal Emperor snorted in disdain. The Maitreya Buddha on the Buddha Lotus said, "Namo Maitreya Buddha, since the Great Sage Hall, Dragon Island, Immortal Palace, Fortune Gate, Sky-bearing Palace, Thunder Temple, and my tiny exquisite temple have all come to an agreement, let's discuss the specific areas we will be defending." When the Maitreya Buddha finished speaking, the Dipankara Archaic Buddha spat out a Buddha Lotus. The Buddha Lotus flew into midair, and Buddha lights shone on it as it expanded, instantly transforming into a huge image of the Nirvana world. Then, the Dipankara Archaic Buddha raised his hand and pointed. Thousands of radiances were born from his finger and landed on the edges of the Nirvana world. The Maitreya Buddha world-honored one did not hesitate. He also raised his hand. Swish! Countless flashes of Buddha dust appeared, and the magnificent scenes of the Buddhist countries appeared from within the flashes of Buddha dust. The flashes of Buddha dust were like dust. They drifted to the edge of a small part of the southern part of Nirvana and landed quietly. After the Buddha dust landed on the ground, the Buddha lights retracted, becoming indifferent. It was even gentler than the Dipankara archaic Buddha's Buddha lights. Sigh. The Dipankara archaic Buddha couldn't help but suck in a breath of cold air. Shock appeared on his face, and he pressed his palms together. Namo Amitabha. 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 Congratulations, junior apprentice brother, for comprehending Buddhism so deeply. Namo Maitreya Buddha. The Maitreya Buddha also chanted and said, everyone is a Buddha. Spirits are Buddhas. Objects are Buddhas. Congratulations, World Lord. The Namo Maitreya Samantabhadra's face was filled with joy, and he immediately bowed. The Namo Wisdom Manjushri Bodhisattva hesitated for a moment before bowing and congratulating as well. This disciple congratulates World Lord. Since the two bodhisattvas had congratulated him, Xiaohua also stood up and congratulated the Maitreya Buddha with the identity of the Guan Yin Bodhisattva. Only he knew that the Maitreya Buddha must have obtained something from the golden Sarira. Congratulations, congratulations, the immortal emperor, the Dragon Island's second elder, and the others naturally added fuel to the fire and congratulated him one after another. In the end, the immortal emperor waved his emperor robe again. Whoosh! A majestic chi pillar rushed out and turned into the shape of a scroll, which fell to the east. Boom! The scroll fell, and countless inscriptions on it exploded like ants. Instantly, the outline of the hidden immortal continent appeared in the air. Puff! The Gaotian immortal emperor opened his mouth again, and a reddish-gold sword light flew out, piercing into the east of the hidden immortal continent. Rumble! The entire eastern edge of the hidden immortal continent trembled, and a layer of barrier rose from the ground. This barrier was like a city wall, protecting the entire continent. Gee! Seeing that the Immortal Palace and the Thunder Temple had finished setting up their defenses, the golden-winged great pung bird let out a clear cry. As it flapped its wings, numerous rays of moonlight transformed into the shape of stars and rushed out. These numerous stars intertwined with each other in mid-air. When they reached the side of the hidden immortal continent, with a loud boom, the numerous stars collided and shattered at the same time. They transformed into countless rays of starlight that connected together and formed the outline of the Thousand Demons' sacred realm. Roar! The Pentaceratops didn't hesitate. It moved its body and opened its mouth. Pluff! It spewed out a draconic breath that turned into several smaller dragons that flew to the north of the Thousand Demons' sacred realm and surrounded it. The Pentaceratops proudly said, "My great sacred temple has sent more than 100 demon monarchs and grand demons to these places to set up defenses. If those strange insects want to break through, they will have to step over the corpses of these demon monarchs." Good. The second elder of Dragon Island, Aoe, clapped his hands and smiled. He also opened his mouth, and a draconic breath landed, turning into a green splash. The splash was like an upside-down waterfall. When it landed high in the sky, it turned into the 4 seas that surrounded the 3 continents. Although the 3 continents were huge, they seemed small in the 4 seas. Everyone, the Dragon King of the East Sea, Aochian, wasn't in a hurry to reveal the defenses of the Dragon Palace of the 4 seas. Instead, he glanced at Aoe and said loudly, "The 4 seas are much bigger than the 3 continents. Moreover, the borders of the realms seem to be limitless. Even if the Dragon Palace of the 4 seas exhausted all the Sea Clan and Dragon Clan, we wouldn't be able to protect the borders. Therefore, with the support of Dragon Island, the Dragon Palace of the 4 seas protected these places." As he spoke, Aochian raised his dragon claw and pointed at the East Sea, South Sea, and North Sea. Waves of light rippled out from all directions. Indeed, the waves weren't shorter than the ones set up by the Buddhists, demons, and Confucian cultivators. However, compared to the surface of the sea, it was much smaller. I've discussed with the Dragon Palace of the 3 seas. Instead of setting up defenses so far away and stretching the battle line so far, Why don't we shrink it a little? Aoi raised his hand and pointed, causing those directions to shrink. Although it seemed to be stretched, the defenses of the various races of the three continents on both sides of the line of defense protruded to the front. Aoi said helplessly, however, if we shrink it, everyone's line of defense will be in front of the dragon palace of the three seas. If strange insects attack us, we'll be attacked from the back. Then, Immortal Emperor Go-Chun pondered for a while and answered, why don't we retreat all the lines of defense and let the humans and demons in front of the lines of defense move to the back of the lines of defense? Amitabha. It's easy to set up defenses, but it's difficult to retreat. The Dipankara archaic Buddha's face became even more bitter. Let's take a look at the West Sea first. Immortal Emperor Go-Chun looked at Xiaohua and the primordial chaos ancestor and said, then, we'll discuss it again. All right. Xiaohua nodded and asked Aoqian, how's the West Sea Dragon Palace's defenses? How many oceanic races and dragons do they have? Aoqian raised his hand and pointed, causing a similar wave to rise. However, this wave was pitifully short. Then, Aoqian gave a simple explanation of the West Sea Dragon Palace's defenses. Xiaohua pinched his chin and stared in the direction of the West Sea. He seemed to be deep in thought, as if he was thinking about how to set up the defenses. He also seemed to be looking at another place through the West Sea. The primordial chaos ancestor looked at Xiaohua and smiled. While Master Xiao is thinking, I'll throw out a brick to attract jade. With that said, the primordial chaos ancestor raised his hand above the cloud below him. A ray of light turned into a flying sword and shot into the West Sea. Splash! The sound of water splashing could be heard as a small defensive line connected to the West Sea Dragon Palace's side. Looking at the defensive line that was much smaller than the West Sea Dragon Palace's, the primordial chaos ancestor spoke humbly, but there was a hint of pride in his tone as he said, this old man's sky-bearing palace is lacking in manpower. I'm afraid this is all I can do. And it's already not bad. Immortal Emperor Go-Chun nodded and said, you didn't hide anything this time. This old man doesn't dare to hide anything in the face of a great enemy. The primordial chaos ancestor laughed and said, now, it's time to see the Fortune Gate strength. Xiaohua still didn't make a move. He only frowned as he looked at the water surface. After half the time it takes to brew a cup of tea, Xiaohua raised his hand and pointed at the sky-bearing palace's side. Shua. Waves that were several times larger than the sky-bearing palace's size appeared. The primordial chaos ancestor's expression changed slightly when he heard Xiaohua say, the Heavenly Paradise River Dragon tribe led by Jianghong is proficient in water. They don't have a lot of people, but they can cover a large area. We can let them set up their defenses here. Heavenly Paradise River Dragon tribe? The primordial chaos ancestor's eyes turned rapidly as he looked at the waves in a daze. Then, Xiaohua pointed at the water surface again. The primordial chaos ancestor secretly let out a sigh of relief, but Xiaohua said, the dragon tribe led by Aozhan is more capable. They can set up their defenses here. Aozhan? Aozhan? The primordial chaos ancestor obviously didn't know who Aozhan was. However, when he saw Aoqian nodding his head, he knew that Aozhan was also an unusual member of the dragon tribe. His expression turned even uglier. As for my Fortune Gate's disciples, Xiaohua raised his hand and waved it. A ray of light shot out like a bolt of lightning and landed on the surface of the sea. A huge wave rose like the rising tide, covering the entire West Sea's edge. Xiaohua said proudly as everyone looked at each other. They can set up their defenses here. The primordial chaos ancestor's face was ashen as the jealousy in his heart grew stronger. He could easily tell that the so-called Fortune Gate's disciples were not nurtured by Xiaohua alone. They must be Suji's painstaking efforts, and these disciples that could make the three mainland's forces tremble in fear should be his. Xiao Longsher, Aoi blurted out, are you sure? Your Fortune Gate actually has such strength? Xiaohua shrugged and smiled. This Xiao also didn't want to expose our strength, but my Fortune Gate is different from everyone else. We don't have any foundation in the three mainlands, so we can go all out without any backup. These troops are all of my Fortune Gate's disciples. Moreover, if my fortune gate doesn't put in effort, how can the West Sea's immortal mountains belong to my fortune gate? And that's true. Immortal Emperor Go-chan nodded cautiously. What Xiaolei said is true. If I didn't worry about the immortal palace, I would have sent out my troops to set up the defenses. It would have been the same. Your Majesty is joking. Xiao Hua looked at Dongfang Qiong Hao and then at Immortal Emperor Go-chan. He smiled and said, whether it is the immortal palace or the four great families, any one of them would have more disciples than my fortune gate. Forget it. Let's not talk about this. Ao Qian waved his hand and said, previously, this old man didn't know that the fortune gate's disciples were so strong, so I limited the fortune gate's disciples to the West Sea. Now, it seems like Xiao Longsher, can you transfer Jiang Hong's Heavenly Cave River Dragon tribe to the South Sea to assist the South Sea Dragon Palace? Hehe. Xiao Hua immediately understood Ao Qian's intention. He was worried that Jiang Hong would take the opportunity to take down the West Sea Dragon Palace. Unfortunately, how could Xiao Hua let him succeed? Xiao Hua smiled and said, Jiang Hong has been to the South Sea Dragon Palace before, and there is some conflict with the South Sea. If the Heavenly Cave River Dragon tribe were to set up defenses there, it would definitely cause a conflict. Why don't we send the other Fortune Gate's disciples to the South Sea? Xiao Hua waved his hand, and a ray of light flew into the South Sea, causing waves to surge. Ao Qian opened his mouth, wanting to transfer Jiang Hong to the North Sea. However, when he thought about Jiang Hong's grudge with the North Sea, he shut his mouth. He wanted to transfer Jiang Hong to the East Sea, but the East Sea was too far away from the West Sea. If he were to ask, it would be too harsh. Set up the defensive lines and withdraw. The Dipankara archaic Buddha looked at them and said. Then, all the Exalt Realm cultivators waved their hands and withdrew their defensive lines. When all the defensive lines formed an irregular circle, they stopped. Yes. The Go-chan Immortal Emperor nodded and said, let's do it this way. Let's hurry up and send a message to our people to retreat. Umitba, Umitba. The Dipankara archaic Buddha glanced at the Maitreya Buddha and raised his hand, causing a ray of Buddha light to enter the void. At the same time, the Immortal Emperor and the golden-winged Great Rock sent a message to their disciples waiting outside the Lingyun Side Hall. Then, the Buddhists, Taoists, Confucians, and dragons discussed the details in detail and exchanged a few opinions. Aoi looked at the defensive circle that had taken shape and frowned. Everyone, our races are now working together to resist the strange insects in the outer realm. We must cooperate and help each other. After all, the alien insects might not attack at the same time. We can concentrate our forces to kill the alien insects that appear at a certain location. However, our four seas dragon palaces have ancient teleportation formations that are connected to each other, while the three continents don't have any teleportation formations. It's fine for us to fly around, but those disciples are a little troublesome. We can only support them from nearby. If they're slightly further away, a huge flaw might appear. Our demon race's Great Sage Hall has a Sage Hall passageway that can be used only. The golden-winged Great Rock pondered and said, however, it's only limited to the 1,000 Demons' sacred realm. This won't affect the battle much. Without a teleportation formation, it's also troublesome to send messages. The Go-chun Immortal Emperor frowned. Our Immortal Palace's Heavenly Secrets Hall has some tricks up its sleeve. However, it's only limited to the hidden Immortal Continent. If the three continents want to send messages or provide support, they can only do so through the Four Seas Dragon Palace's teleportation formations. Umitba. The Dipankara archaic Buddha echoed. Our Thunderclap Temple has the same problem. Although those who attained the Bodhisattva Buddha fruit and above can borrow the Thunder Temple's Buddha light, there are only a few of them. Namo Maitreya. The Maitreya Buddha's world sovereign clasped his palms together and said, our exquisite temple has some guardian heavenly kings who know how to set up a teleportation formation. However, their teleportation formation collapses easily and can only be used temporarily. Moreover, the distance is limited. Although our Confucian cultivators' 10,000 miles sound transmission can't send us far, Dongfang Qianghao suggested, we can send more disciples to connect them. The problem of sending messages should be solved. While everyone in the demon race were discussing, Xiaohua was discussing with the Thunderbolt Master in his mind. After a while, Xiaohua had an idea in his mind and said, "Everyone, our Fortune Gates disciples can set up short-distance teleportation formations on the 3 continents for disciples. Moreover, our Fortune Gate also has teleportation formations that connect the hidden immortal continent, the pure land of bliss, and the 1,000 demons' sacred realm." As soon as Xiao Hua's words came out, the entire place fell into a dead silence. Even a drop of water could be heard clearly. "What? You don't believe me?" The corners of Xiao Hua's mouth curled up into a faint smile. "Sigh, of course we believe you." Immortal Emperor Go Chan sighed and said, "I've been waiting for you to say that." "Hee." Xiao Hua laughed and said, "So everyone has already thought of that person." That person Xiao Hua was referring to was naturally Su Ji and Fairy Xingyu. "Of course." Aoe smiled and said, "If it wasn't for the teleportation formation that connected the 3 continents, how could Zhai Xinglu send messages so quickly? Moreover, on this day of the Dao Gates annihilation, if there's anyone who can set up a teleportation formation, it can only be that person." Xiao Hua was secretly delighted and said with a smile, "Since everyone already understands, then I don't have to explain. To use the teleportation formation on the 3 continents, it costs 100 top-grade origin stones every time. Our Fortune Gate will help each continent build a teleportation formation, and the materials will be provided by you. Moreover, after it's completed, every time." "Master Xiao Hua." Dongfang Qianghao smiled bitterly and said, "Master Xiao Hua, have you fallen into a money grubber? The previous order was already too much, and I didn't say anything. Now, we're building a teleportation formation for the sake of all living beings. Does Master Xiao Hua not have any mercy in his heart? Aren't you the Namo Great Compassionate Great Guanyin Bodhisattva? All right, 1 top-grade origin stone every time. How about it?" Xiao Hua replied with a smile, "We can't let our Fortune Gate disciples work for free, right?" "Of course not. This is a matter of merit, and we can't ask for wages." The Dipankara Archaic Buddha also smiled. All the exalts present were happy because the construction of the teleportation formation had solved their biggest problem. However, the primordial chaos ancestor who was sitting cross-legged beside Xiao Hua fell silent again. Needless to say, he resented Su Ji for giving these things that originally belonged to him to Xiao Hua. Otherwise, he would be the one enjoying the benefits in the Lingyun side hall right now. After the discussion, Xiao Hua was about to instruct the Thunderbolt Hermit to take the Kunlun Mirror and send the Fortune Gate disciples who were capable of setting up the teleportation formation on the Shunhua continent. However, just as he said that, Immortal Emperor Gaochen smiled and said, "Master Xiao Hua, there's no need to rush. The Lingyun side hall isn't within the Immortal Palace's territory. The time is the same as the hidden Immortal Continent." All right. Xiao Hua thought for a while and knew that the Fortune Gate disciples could prepare the materials needed to set up the teleportation formation on the Shenhua continent. He nodded and took out a few jade eyes and passed them to Immortal Emperor Gaochen, the golden-winged Great Rock, and the Dipankara Archaic Buddha. He said, "These are the materials needed to set up the teleportation formation. Please prepare the materials according to the distance and location of the teleportation formation. When my Fortune Gate disciples arrive, you can start setting up the formation." "Sure." The 3 exalts took the jade eyes and used their divine abilities to look at them. Then, they passed them to the disciples waiting outside the Lingyun side hall and hurriedly sent them out. At this point, the Taoist Gates Foundation in the 3 continents was barely established. When a sect or sect wanted to integrate into the entire world, other than strength, it would be useful. Only when there was value in using each other would there be meaning in their existence. Although Xiao Hua was powerful, and the Fortune Gates army was a force to be reckoned with in the 3 continents, the Immortal Palace, Thunder Temple, Great Sacred Hall, and Dragon Island all had their own forces. However, building a teleportation formation wasn't something that other sects could do. Only the Fortune Gate could do it. It wasn't hard to imagine that the Taoist Gate could only stay in the West Sea for now. However, after the teleportation formation was completed and the Taoist Gate killed the world-destroying monstrous worm, The three continents would have to rely on the teleportation formation. Whether it was the monster race or the human race, they would all think of the Fortune Gate. Of course, there was also the possibility of the Taoist Gate's Grand Ascension stage, experts like Xiao Hua, so the possibility of that happening was greatly reduced. Seeing how Xiao Hua and the Fortune Gate were so highly regarded, the Grand Mist Ancestor became even more jealous. However, he still forced a smile on his face and said, "Thank you, Taoist Xiao. With the teleportation formation, our Taoist Gate can establish itself in the three continents." "No, we should thank that senior." Xiao Hua also smiled and said, "Although he didn't directly let the Taoist Gate take root in the three continents, he has already put in a lot of effort. This Xiao is merely standing on his shoulder." "Yes, yes." The Grand Mist Ancestor nodded in agreement. "Everyone." At this time, Immortal Emperor Gaochen raised his voice and said, "Today's discussion ends here. Everyone, take a look and see if there is anything missing. If there isn't, I invite the Empress to hold a banquet at the Jade Lake. We won't rest until we are drunk." Since the discussion had reached this point, there was naturally nothing left out. The venerables shook their heads. Immortal Emperor Gaochen smiled and said, "Everyone, please wait a moment. I invite the Empress to hold a banquet at the Jade Lake. P.S. After this chapter, there might be the final madness of God cultivating. Let's see the battle strength rankings. Also, I thank everyone for supporting God cultivating. If everyone can enjoy this chapter to their heart's content, it will be the greatest gratification for the third place. At the same time, I use this opportunity to call for more readers to subscribe to the original version of this book. The third place doesn't ask for everyone to subscribe to the previous chapters. I only hope that everyone can start from the last chapter. The story of the immortal world and the desolate era is in everyone's hands. The third place tearfully asks for subscriptions. If the number of subscriptions exceeds 1,000, the immortal world will be opened. If the number of subscriptions exceeds 1,000, the immortal world will be opened. If the number of subscriptions exceeds 100, the immortal world will be opened. If the number of subscriptions exceeds 1,000, the immortal world will be opened. How Xiao Hua went against the light to become a true saint will depend on everyone. The third place thanks. Chapter 46-73. As he spoke, Immortal Emperor Go-Chin's imperial robe shook and a golden throne appeared below him. The moment the throne appeared, a powerful imperial aura gushed out from the top of the mountain. Dongfang Qianghao, who was standing next to Immortal Emperor Go-Chen, was surprised. Immortal Emperor Go-Chen glanced at Dongfang Qianghao and slapped the throne. A golden light turned into the shape of a dragon python and disappeared into the void. However, a moment later, there was a thunderous rumble and a giant golden bell appeared in the sky. The golden bell was covered in inscriptions, and strands of purple gas came out from the inscriptions. They were like tiny earthworms swimming in the golden light. Under the golden bell, there was a yellow light that fell into the void and covered the entire Lingyun side palace. What a guy! The vast void bell. Aoi saw the bell and narrowed his eyes. He seemed to be mocking himself. Old Go-Chun, you actually took the vast void bell from the Immortal Palace to the Lingyun side palace to set up a defense. Fortunately, I didn't have any bad intentions towards you. Otherwise, I'm afraid I wouldn't even be able to leave the Lingyun side palace. Don't have the heart to harm others, but don't let your guard down. Immortal Emperor Go-Chan replied with a smile. I've been taken advantage of several times, so I have to learn from my mistakes. Dongfang Qianghao's face didn't even turn red. He bowed and said, Your Majesty is a wise ruler. Perhaps some people were jealous of you before, but now that the world-destroying strange insect is besieged, Your Majesty's strategy is to focus on the foundation of the Confucian cultivators. Once we kill the world-destroying strange insect and return peace to the hidden immortal continent, who will not listen to Your Majesty? Haha, well said. Immortal Emperor Go-Chan stood up and laughed. We Confucian cultivators emphasize on political and martial arts. I have no objections to ruling the world through political means. However, if I don't use troops, the 100 schools of thought seem to have forgotten that the Sun Clan is a martial arts clan. This battle will let you all see my martial arts strategy." With that, Immortal Emperor Go-chan waved his sleeve. Dong, dong, dong. 9 bell chimes resounded, and a vast wave of golden light rushed towards the Lingyun Side Palace. The entire Lingyun Side Palace turned transparent in an instant. Even the mountain peak under Xiaohua and the others turned into debris. Caw, caw. Behind Immortal Emperor Go-chan, the sound of birds chirping could be heard. Xiaohua looked up and saw that the sky was giving birth to auspicious signs. Colorful immortal birds were descending from the sky. Behind them were several hundred immortal beasts. Xiaohua had never seen most of them before. Whoosh, whoosh. High up in the sky, the cloud jade necklace and immortal birds and immortal beasts rushed out. Below Xiaohua and the others, the crisscrossing ground changed again. Waves of blue ripples came out from the void and covered the entire ground. Immortal Emperor Go-chan patted his golden throne and smiled. "Everyone, follow me to the jade pool." Hiss. Immortal Emperor Go-chan's figure followed the golden throne and rushed into the cloud jade necklace. The blue ripples created waves as the sound of bells came out from the clouds. Several hundred female officials held various kinds of music and channeled their true energy to play. And in another direction, several thousand female generals also flew out from the clouds. These female generals all had weapons and danced to the music. Their graceful dance was not hidden by their armor. On the contrary, it exuded a mighty and murderous aura, making it even more pleasing to the eyes. Xiaohua and the others flew for a while. Whoosh! The vast void bell in the sky disappeared. Layers of jade necklace fluttered down like willow catkins. When they reached the top of everyone's head, they turned into specks of light. Within these specks of light, the entire space became transparent. Boom, boom, boom. 3 golden pillars of righteous energy appeared in the north, roaring as they pierced through the heavens and the earth. Outside the pillars of righteous energy, thousands of chains of inscriptions rushed out from below like dragons, surrounding the pillars of righteous energy. At the same time, the fragrance of the Confucian cultivator's destiny turned into a layer of fine peony flowers in the air. These peony flowers had different colors, and their fragrances were competing with each other in terms of beauty. What was special was that there was an unyielding and proud aura coming from these peony flowers. Whoosh! The runic chains rushed to the end of the sky and turned into countless scrolls, writing brushes, scrolls, and even flowers falling down from the sky. In this magnificent scene of the mortal world, a golden peony and a pink peony bloomed amidst hundreds of flowers. At the spot where the pink peony bloomed, the shadow of another golden throne appeared. The Eastern Sea Empress was wearing a palace robe and sat on it with great majesty. The moment her figure appeared, Immortal Emperor Go-chin's golden throne also swayed and turned into a golden light that fell into the other peony. The Celestial Emperor and Empress sat down. Clang. With a soft sound, the originally transparent space immediately lit up. Among the hundreds of flowers, Princess Zixia, Princess Qing Qing, Princess Miao Miao, and the others appeared. Even Taibai Jinxing, Heavenly King Qingyu, Heavenly King Fuyu, Heavenly King Sun Jian, and the other generals and ministers appeared. Roar! The light came out with a bestial roar. An auspicious beast similar to a qilin flew out from the void. This beast's body was transparent and countless runes condensed into words. Finally, they turned into scrolls that rotated inside the beast's body. Even the beast's forehooves were in the shape of writing brushes and inkstones. When the auspicious beast arrived at the spot where the flowers bloomed, it exploded again. Countless ingots, copper coins, and scrolls flew all over the sky. Namo Amitba. Seeing that the Confucian cultivators had settled down, the Dipankara Archaic Buddha World Exalted chanted a Buddhist mantra and took a step forward to the west. Following the Dipankara Archaic Buddha World Exalted's figure, the Maitreya Buddha World Exalted, the Manjushri Bodhisattva, and the Samantabhadra Bodhisattva followed closely behind. Clank, clank, clank. Countless sounds of knocking wooden fish resounded from the void in the west. Along with the sounds of Sanskrit chanting, layers of Buddhist lights fell from the sky like a heavenly river. Wherever the Buddhist lights fell, the silhouettes of countless kind men and women were revealed. Heavenly flowers flew out from their foreheads and circled around them. Similar to the jade Jew flowers of the Yaodai mountain, a Buddha statue sat on each of these flowers. Although each Buddha statue had a different appearance, and some of them were even blurry, these Buddha statues all had their palms pressed together as they bowed towards the Dipankara archaic Buddha world exalted and the Maitreya Buddha world exalted, Dang. When the two revered sages' 9 lotus thrones appeared and sat on them, the 2 bodhisattvas also sat cross-legged on the lotus thrones. Another Buddhist bell rang, and Buddhist lotuses appeared where the heavenly flowers fell. Sitting or standing on the Buddhist lotuses were the disciples of the Buddhist sect. Ka. Almost at the same time as the Dipankara archaic Buddha world exalted took a step forward, the golden-winged great rock let out a clear cry and flapped its wings, flying towards the east. The profound armored Pentaceratops also revealed its draconic form and followed behind it. Although the 2 great sages' demonic bodies were several thousand feet in size, when they landed in the air, they only looked like ordinary demonic beasts. Just as the 2 great sages landed in the east, countless starry and moonlight pillars fell from the sky, enveloping the entire east. As the starry and moonlight pillars rumbled, clouds of starry dust rose like clouds. Within the starry dust, starry phenomena flickered. Then, dozens of starry phenomena collided with each other. The images of the demon race great sages who had participated in the Jade Pool gathering were displayed within the starry and moonlight pillars. Woo! Under the starry and moonlight pillars, within the Jade Pool's jade-green ripples, a loud whimper resounded. 2 stars broke through the sky and landed below the golden-winged great rock and the profound armored Pentaceratops. When the golden-winged great rock retracted its wings, the profound armored Pentaceratops coiled its body. Bam! 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 Crisp noises resounded again. The demon race's demon kings flickered with starry brilliance, revealing themselves near the 2 great sages. Haha, Dragon Master Shao. The remaining AoE looked towards the south and smiled. Before the Jade Pool gathering, we had invited the Taoist Gate to take a seat. If you don't mind, why don't you sit together with my Dragon Island? No need. Xiao Hua smiled faintly. Since my Taoism has come to the Jade Pool gathering, how can we not have a seat? This is not how the Immortal Palace treats its guests. I believe that His Majesty Immortal Emperor will not favor one and discriminate against the other. Haha. Aoe let out a long laugh, and his dragon body also spread out. Boom. The same loud noise resounded from beneath the Jade Pool's jade-green ripples. A huge water pillar soared into the sky. Countless water splashes swayed within the water pillar, and within the water splashes, there were tens of thousands of sparkling and translucent strands. If one looked carefully, each strand of translucent strands looked like a crystal dragon. Waves of dense dragon aura seeped out from the water pillar. Not only that, when the water pillar soared into the sky in the south collapsed as well. Countless essence chi of heaven and earth turned into crystal lights that were like children's arms and rushed down. Before they touched the water pillar, they exploded again. Whoosh! Whoosh! In the whistling of the wind, the phantoms of the 5 elements primordial beasts, azure dragon, white tiger, black tortoise, vermilion bird, and Qilin, appeared majestically in the light and shadow. Roar! Aoe let out a loud roar. His dragon body was supported by the water pillar. Behind him, the Lord of the East Sea, Aoqian, also landed. Boom! 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 Next, hundreds of water splashes gushed out from the surroundings of the water pillar. Many dragon generals also entered from outside the Lingyun side hall. Seeing the followers of the Exalts following them in, the primordial mist ancestor felt bitter. He knew that with immortal Emperor Gaoqian's temper, he would definitely not allow the riding crane Taoist and the Dark Night Child to enter. Although Xiao Hua did not bring any disciples with him when he entered, all the Exalts knew that Xiao Hua had the Kunlun mirror in his hands. Within the Kunlun immortal realm, there were Xiao Hua's disciples. After Xiao Hua sat down, he could bring as many disciples as he wanted. What about the primordial mist ancestor? In the bustling Jade Pool gathering, He was the only one sitting alone in the sky-bearing palace. Even if he participated in the Jade Pool gathering, he would still be a laughingstock. The primordial mist ancestor could endure humiliation in front of immortal Emperor Gaochen, the golden-winged Great Rock, and the Dipankara archaic Buddha. However, he could not lose face in front of the four sect's disciples. In the future, if this matter was brought up, his sky-bearing palace's disciples would not be able to raise their heads. Therefore, the primordial mist ancestor made a prompt decision and hurriedly sent a sound transmission to Xiao Hua, Taoist Xiao. "Oh, what's wrong?" Xiao Hua, who had always been oblivious to humiliation, replied in bewilderment, "Seeing that we are all Taoism cultivators, could you not let your Fortune Gate's disciples out?" Although the primordial mist ancestor's tone was pleading, his heart was already filled with resentment towards Xiao Hua. "Oh, why?" Xiao Hua did not bring any Fortune Gate's disciples with him. He did not think of letting a few unfamiliar Shenhua continent's disciples out. However, he still asked in confusion. However, he only asked a single question before he immediately understood. He rolled his eyes and said, "This Xiao understands now. However, when this Xiao brought my disciples here, I made it clear that I wanted them to experience the Kunlun immortal realm. I can't possibly extinguish my Fortune Gate's disciples' desire just because of Taoist Zhao's words, right? This one will compensate the Fortune Gate's disciples." When the primordial mist ancestor saw immortal Emperor Go Chun looking in their direction, he hurriedly replied, "As long as Taoist Xiao agrees to this one's condition, well said." Xiao Hua stroked his chin as he pondered inwardly. He really did not understand why the primordial mist ancestor valued face so much. However, he also did not understand what kind of extortion the primordial mist ancestor would accept. After a while, Xiao Hua sent a sound transmission to the primordial mist ancestor. "How about this? My Fortune Gate does not lack any origin stones, spiritual herbs, and other things. If you have any heavenly treasures, why don't you give them to this Xiao?" Heavenly treasures? The primordial mist ancestor almost fainted. He angrily said, "Taoist Xiao, this old man only has one request. Whether your disciples come to the Jade Lake gathering or not, what effect does it have on them? Why are you asking for so much from the start? A few heavenly treasures? Aren't you afraid of biting your tongue? All right, forget about a few." Xiao Hua smiled and said, "If you have wood, water, or water origin stones, why don't you take them out? This Xiao will agree to your request." The primordial mist ancestor's face flushed red. He turned his head and ignored Xiao Hua. He looked at the rippling waves of the Jade Lake, as if there were female officials coming out of their baths. All right. Xiao Hua saw that there was no hope, and he could only say, "This Xiao remembers that you have some lost refining techniques of my Tao Gate. Just take them out and let this Xiao see. This can be considered as spreading the glory of my Tao Gate's techniques." The primordial mist ancestor coldly snorted. He raised his hand and flicked out a jade eye from his sleeve, then lowered his head again. Hee. Xiao Hua beamed with joy as he received the jade eye. He casually sent it to the Fortune Gate on Shenhua continent. The current Shenhua continent was flourishing, and there were many cultivators. Who knew how many Tao Gates experts would be born with this jade eye? Immortal Emperor Go Chun naturally didn't know that Xiao Hua had gained a small advantage. Seeing that the primordial mist ancestor was no longer speaking, he raised his voice and said, "Lightning Master Xiao, you are my immortal palace's lightning master. If you don't mind, you can also sit in my immortal palace." "Many thanks for your kindness, Your Majesty," Xiao Hua replied. "This Xiao is also the Guanyin Bodhisattva of the Buddhism sect. How about this Xiao go to the Buddhism sect? If Guanyin Bodhisattva comes, this seat will welcome you," the Dipankara archaic Buddha said with a smile. However, this smile contained a hint of bitterness. After all, the 99 feet golden body of the first Guanyin Bodhisattva of the Buddhism sect in the hidden immortal continent was actually a Taoism Mahayana. Right at this moment, the golden-winged Great Rock's voice resounded like thunder. He exclaimed, "Taoist Xiao, you are the Dragon Island's Dragon Master, the Immortal Palace's Lightning Master, and the Buddhism sect's Guanyin Bankara. Why haven't you cultivated my demon race's martial arts? How about this? This sage will also give you the title of Demon Master. This way, you will be the master of the four sects, the lord of a sect. Fiske. Xiaohua flicked his sleeves and said, Demon Master, Demon Master. Why does it sound so awkward? This Xiao isn't of the demon race, and I don't understand the demon race's martial arts. Why should I talk about Demon Master? It's better not to mention it. Seeing Xiao Hua joking around with the other exalts, especially after hearing that Xiao Hua had so many identities, Princess Zixia, who was sitting among the peony flowers, was already mesmerized. Such a man, who stood at the peak of the 3 continents and came looking for her on 7-colored auspicious clouds, what regrets did she have in this life? During the Jade Pool banquet, Taoism also had a seat. However, it hasn't been used for many years. Today, I will open it for you. Looking at Xiao Hua's high-spirited appearance, the East Sea Empress was also full of joy. As she spoke, she raised her hand and took out a phoenix hairpin from her hair bun, then threw it into the jade pool. The phoenix hairpin turned into a stream of light and crashed into the jade pool like lightning. Boom! In the south of the jade pool, near the water pillar where the second elder of the dragon tribe was sitting, an earth-shattering sound rang out. The blue waves were torn apart, and a non-oval vortex appeared in the crack. The vortex became bigger and bigger, and finally condensed into a black hole that was thousands of feet wide. In this black hole, mysterious fluctuations spurted out like breathing. Immediately, the 5 elements primordial beasts, which were originally hovering near the dragon tribe, found the source of the fluctuations and flew over. Boom, boom, boom. Immediately after, a huge crack appeared in the void, and hundreds of spiritual chi of heaven and earth crashed into the black hole like a hurricane. Roar! An inexplicable beast roar came from the black hole, and then a wild aura, an unyielding will, and a rebellious spirit overflowed from the black hole. This. Xiaohua sensed the aura and was quite puzzled. Moreover, this aura was extremely vast, and its spirit was also very similar to the heaven-defying spirit of the Tao Gate. He couldn't help but stare at the black hole in astonishment. Boom! After the aura passed, another pillar of 7-colored light gushed out. Within the light, one could see that a dark golden throne with an ancient design was revealed. Buzz! The moment this throne appeared, even the golden thrones below Immortal Emperor Go Qian and the Eastern Sea Empress began to vibrate. At the same time, the silhouette of a dragon throne appeared below Dragon King Ao Qian's body. Countless gazes fell on this throne. A domineering aura that could pierce the heavens emanated from the throne, enveloping an area of thousands of feet. The Grand Mist Throne! The Grand Mist Throne! The Grand Mist Ancestor couldn't help but exclaim. Our Tao Gate's Grand Mist Throne really did fall into the Immortal Palace. Xiao Hua glanced at the Grand Mist Ancestor from the corner of his eyes. Seeing the realization on his face, he finally understood where the Grand Mist Ancestor's Tao name came from. F***CK. This Grand Mist Ancestor really has lofty ambitions. He wanted to sit on the Grand Mist Throne since he was young. Xiao Hua cursed inwardly. But now, it's this Xiao who has the chance to sit on the throne, not you. Where the Grand Mist Throne landed, the void collapsed. Countless amounts of heaven and earth origin energy rushed in, and countless illusions were destroyed. The 5 elements origin beasts flew around the throne in a frenzy. Master Xiao Lei. Immortal Emperor Gaoqian was very satisfied with the shock caused by the throne's appearance. He smiled and said, This Grand Mist Throne has been submerged under the Jade Lake for many years. Now that Master Xiao Lei is the leader of the Tao Gate, the Fortune Gate's great old master, you naturally have the qualifications to sit on it. Please. Haha. Your Majesty, you're wrong. How can this be called the Grand Mist Throne? It should be called the Fortune Throne. Xiao Hua laughed heartily. With a tap of his finger, a bolt of lightning descended. Boom! The entire throne instantly emitted dazzling lightning. Following the lightning, the throne slowly flew towards Xiao Hua. Xiao Hua stood in midair and scanned his surroundings. His gaze started from the Grand Mist Ancestor, then Ao Qian, the Maitreya Buddha world exalted, the Dipankar archaic Buddha world exalted, and others. Finally, it landed on the Grand Mist ancestor. Xiao Hua then looked towards the faraway immortal palace and said, "Your Majesty, this Xiao thanks you for this throne. However, if this Xiao were to sit on it alone, it would be quite lonely. Can I borrow Princess Zixia to sit with this Xiao?" Haha. Immortal Emperor Gaochen was very happy. He nodded and said, "This emperor loves to fulfill others' wishes. Although Princess Zixia has never married you, there is already an engagement. So what if she sits with you at the Jade Lake? If this matter were to spread to the hidden immortal realm, it would be a good story." Approved. "Thank you, Your Majesty." Princess Zixia's face was already flushed red. When she heard Xiao Hua's words, her eyebrows relaxed. She stood up and bowed to express her thanks. Then, she urged her red cloud to fly to Xiao Hua's side. Xiao Hua affectionately reached out his hand and held her cold and sweaty hand. Princess Zixia lowered her head slightly. She was extremely shy. Then, Xiao Hua slightly used his strength and gestured to Princess Zixia. The two of them slowly sat down. Boom! As the two of them sat down on the throne of creation, countless bolts of lightning that were several times more tyrannical than the one Xiao Hua had seen in the Creation Dao Palace rushed into the sky. They turned into a huge pillar of lightning that swam through the sky. This lightning force forced the Dragon Island's second elder, the Maitreya Buddha, and the others to retreat a distance. As the throne sat down, the heavenly being and the Thunderbolt Master urged their figures and stood on both sides of the throne. Boom boom. Two similar thrones formed by lightning appeared. The Grand Mist ancestor's face was incomparably calm. He faintly smiled and his figure landed on the heavenly being's side. Xiao Hua naturally wouldn't tease him. Lightning flashed as the Grand Mist ancestor also sat on the throne. Empty. The Dao Gate seats were arranged. The entire Jade Lake was once again filled with the clear sound of a chime. Groups of women wearing seamless, heavenly clothes appeared from the void. Although these women were beautiful and had graceful figures, they didn't seem to have a lively body. They only had faintly discernible lines. The heavenly women danced along with the sound of the chime. A kind of sadness and a kind of mystery involuntarily appeared in everyone's heart. However, at this time, Xiao Hua didn't look at these heavenly women. Instead, he slightly tilted his head and looked at Princess Zixia. The princess also turned her head and looked at Xiao Hua. The two of them were glued together like glue. Their fingers were tightly intertwined and their thumbs were stuck together. Dong! After a while, another chime sounded. The heavenly women finished their dance and disappeared into the void. Waves of blue waves rolled out as maids from the immortal palace flew out from the Jade Lake with fine wines and delicacies in their hands. At the same time, a golden table appeared in front of Xiao Hua's group. After the banquet was served, before immortal Emperor Gaochen could raise his cup, the Eastern Sea Lord, Ao Qian, smiled and said, "Your Majesty is a bit stingy, ah." The most famous dish of the Jade Lake gathering is the immortal peach. This item is left behind by the heavenly court. It blossoms every 3,000 years, bears fruit another 3,000 years, and ripens another 3,000 years. Ordinary people who eat it will become lighter and become immortals. Human cultivators who eat it will ascend and become immortal. My dragon race who eats it will live as long as the heaven and earth, as long as the sun and moon. Why are you still not taking it out? Ha ha ha. Immortal Emperor Gaochen laughed and said, "My dear subject, you always nag about this and always ask for the seeds of the immortal peach after eating it. Didn't I already tell you? This immortal peach is left behind by the heavenly court and can only be grown in the Jade Lake of the Empress. Other places are not allowed." I don't believe it. I don't believe it. Aoi used his dragon claw to stroke his dragon beard again and said with a smile, "My Dragon Island is a land of water essence. Everything can grow there. Even if this immortal peach is an immortal root, it will definitely be able to grow." Haha, good. Immortal Emperor Gaochen seemed to be very happy. He turned to the Eastern Sea Empress and said, "Empress, the second elder of the Dragon Palace hasn't come to my immortal palace for a long time. We can't not give him face. How about giving some seeds to the Dragon Island? Unfortunately, Before immortal Emperor Gaochen could finish, the Eastern Sea Empress smiled and said, "Your Majesty, the immortal peach is the only thing in my immortal palace." Back then, it was Your Majesty who issued the decree that every immortal peach's pit must be taken back and forbidden the immortal peach from flowing to other places. Today, Your Majesty wants me to go against Your Majesty's decree? Immortal Emperor Gaochen turned to look at Aoe with an innocent face and said, "Second Elder, as you can see, it's not that I'm not accommodating. It's just that the Empress isn't willing." All right, all right. Aoe waved his hand and said with a smile, "It's all your immortal palace's things. It's fine if you don't want to give it to me. Why do you have to make so many gimmicks? It sounds like you're teasing me." Haha. Immortal Emperor Gaochen laughed loudly and raised his cup. He said loudly, "I declare that the Jade Lake Gathering begins today. My first toast is to the invited exalts. I wish that all the sects and races will work together to resist the world exterminating strange insect to the boundary of the world and prevent the 3 continents from being plunged into misery and suffering. After our great victory, I will hold a banquet here and invite all of you." 2. Aoe, the golden-winged great roc, the Dipankara archaic Buddha, and Xiao Hua raised their cups and saluted each other from afar. Then, they drank their cups in one gulp. Then, immortal Emperor Gaochen raised his cup again and said, "My second toast is to the exalts of all sects and races. Now, the 3 continents are in a turbulent situation. Talents from all sects and races have emerged. Not to mention the Great Sage Starry Sky Great Sage and the heaven-defying Thunder Phoenix. The Thunder Sound Temple has the Maitreya Buddha, and the Immortal Palace has the 5 Cheese unification art that the Lord of the Literature Stream Palace brought to us Confucian cultivators. Just the emergence of Taoism and the emergence of several human Mahayana realm experts is enough to make us invincible against the world-exterminating omen. Come, let me toast to all of you." "Thank you, Your Majesty." Xiao Hua and the others stood up and raised their cups in response. The third toast. Immortal Emperor Gaochen raised his cup again and looked around. He looked at the Immortal Palace's people and said, "I toast to the Confucian cultivators and the Immortal Palace's people. The turbulent situation in the 3 continents has inevitably affected my Immortal Palace, the hidden Immortal Continent, the Sutra seeking an extreme bliss, the horizon of day and night, the Heavenly Secrets Hall, and many other matters have also told me that I can't always be high and mighty. In the future, I must learn from the 100 schools of thought and get closer to the Immortal Palace's officials. Of course, I also toast to the Empress. I have to deal with the external affairs of the Immortal Palace, while the Empress has to deal with the internal affairs of the Immortal Palace. Oh, and I also hope that after Princess Zixia gets married, she can put down her princess status and follow her daughter's teachings. She can assist her husband and help him achieve great things." The East Sea Empress looked at Immortal Emperor Gaochen with a bit of surprise. However, a trace of gratitude and warmth flashed through her eyes. Princess Zixia stood up with a red face and respectfully looked in the direction of the Immortal Palace. As for the peonies, near the edge, Princess Qingqing's face was pale. She gritted her teeth and looked at Princess Zixia. "Thank you, Your Majesty." The Immortal Palace's people raised their cups and thanked Immortal Emperor Gaochen for the third toast. Dongfang Qianghao didn't sit down. Instead, he raised his cup and said respectfully, "Since Your Majesty mentioned horizon of day and night, this old official will not sit down. Here, this old official will represent the 4 great clans to give Your Majesty a toast. In the past, we were a bit suspicious and were a bit estranged. However, after thinking about it recently, the 4 of us feel that Your Majesty is the most suitable person to sit in this position." Sigh. Immortal Emperor Gaochen raised his cup and sighed. "My dear official, I won't say much. It's lonely at the top. As long as you can comprehend this sentence, you will also understand my difficulties. Come, let's drink this cup. This cup of wine will let bygones be bygones." Dongfang Qianghao said proudly. "Indeed." Immortal Emperor Gaochen nodded and raised his cup. Hee. Xiao Hua sat on the throne of creation in the distance. He was still holding Princess Zixia's hand. He coldly looked at Immortal Emperor Gaochen and Dongfang Qianghao. He knew that no one at the Jade Lake Conference would believe what they said. The Immortal Palace and the four great clans had a long history of grievances. If it wasn't for the rise of the Dowgate and the apocalypse, they would be like fire and water now. How could this be resolved with a cup of wine? Perhaps taking Xia with me and roaming the shores of the West Sea will be the most wonderful thing in the future, Xiaohua thought to himself. He unconsciously turned his head and saw that Princess Xia's face was still red. She raised her head and saw Xiaohua's gaze. Both their eyes were filled with satisfaction. When Dongfang Qianghao was about to sit down, Immortal Emperor Gaochen smiled and said, "My dear official Dongfang, I remember that you have already made a request. For the prince, not good." Before Immortal Emperor Gaochen finished speaking, the East Sea Empress' heart thumped. She knew what Immortal Emperor Gaochen was about to say. She quickly stood up and smiled. "Your Majesty?" "Oh?" Immortal Emperor Gaochen was stunned. He looked at the Empress and asked curiously, "Empress, what's the matter?" "Not good." Princess Xia saw this and her body stiffened. She knew what the East Sea Empress wanted to do. She quickly sent a message to Xiaohua in a low voice. "Ah?" Hearing Princess Xia's sound transmission, Xiaohua was completely stupefied. How could there be such a thing? Why didn't I know about it? How could the Lightning Immortal tell you about this? Princess Xia anxiously replied. "Mother will definitely propose in person." Princess Xia was right. While she was sending a message to Xiaohua, the East Sea Empress had already spoken. "Your Majesty, I have something I wanted to discuss with you. However, since today is a joyous day, the sects of the three continents have reached an agreement to fight the world-destroying strange insect together. At the same time, it is also a good day for your Majesty to betroth Princess Xia to Lightning Immortal Xiaohua. Therefore, I boldly hope that your Majesty can add to the joy and betroth Princess Qingqing to the Lightning Immortal of the Fortune Gate." "What?" Not to mention Immortal Emperor Gaochen, even Dongfang Qianghao was stunned. Although the two of them didn't discuss this beforehand, Immortal Emperor Gaochen's intention to rope Princess Qingqing in and Dongfang Qianghao's intention to delay the marriage was already set in stone. However, they didn't expect the East Sea Empress to interfere. In the distance, Princess Qingqing watched all of this in disbelief. She felt as if she was in a dream. Her head, which was already heavy, became even heavier. However, in her scheming mind, a primitive joy involuntarily emerged and a smile hung on her lips. "Congratulations, sister," Princess Miao Miao whispered enviously to the side. Princess Qingqing was so happy that she forgot to reply. However, the moment Princess Miao Miao finished her words, Immortal Emperor Go Chun understood the Empress' intentions. He quickly calculated the implications and laughed. "Wonderful, wonderful. The Empress and I are indeed of the same mind." I was just about to bring up Miao Miao's matter, and the Empress immediately thought of Qing Qing. Princess Miao Miao's face instantly paled after hearing this. An indescribable sorrow appeared in her eyes. "Old fox." Dongfang Qianghao cursed. He knew that Dongfang Huayan had a special liking for Princess Qingqing among the princesses of Immortal Emperor Gaochen. He also mentioned Princess Qingqing, not the cowardly Princess Miao Miao. However, to the Dongfang clan, Princess Qingqing and Princess Miao Miao didn't matter, as long as she was a princess of the Immortal Palace. Therefore, Dongfang Qianghao also stood up with a smile. He was about to express his gratitude when a thunderous voice came from the side of the throne of creation. "What the hell is a betrothal? Old man Gaochen, old woman Dongfang, why do you need to worry about my matters? You're annoying me for no reason." "Humph." Immortal Emperor Gaochen's expression greatly changed as he snorted. How could he tolerate the Thunderbolt Immortal's rudeness to his face? However, as soon as Immortal Emperor Gochan snorted, the Thunderbolt Immortal rolled his eyes and stood up. He smiled and said, "Your Majesty, your wine is truly rare in this world. After drinking a few cups, I couldn't help but lose my composure. I was drunk just now. Your Majesty, please forgive I for being a country bumpkin." "Haha, don't blame me, don't blame me." Immortal Emperor Gaochen hurriedly stopped while he was ahead. He smiled and said, "The wine at the Jade Lake Gathering is something that the hidden Immortal Continent doesn't have. It's normal for you to be a little tipsy. Normally, immortal Emperor Gaochen would mention Princess Qingqing after saying this. However, seeing that the Thunderbolt Immortal was angry, he couldn't bring it up anymore. He quietly waited for the Thunderbolt Immortal to explain so that he could resolve the awkwardness. Sure enough, the Thunderbolt Immortal said politely, "The Book of Songs is abundant, Guan Guan Jiu, in the river continent. A gentle and graceful lady is a gentleman's dream. This humble Taoist has only met Princess Qingqing once, and it was during a battle. This humble Taoist doesn't think that I have a good relationship with Princess Qingqing, and this humble Taoist doesn't think that I can have a good future with Princess Qingqing. Therefore, I ask your Majesty and Empress to reconsider. Also, I am now engrossed in cultivation and have reached a critical moment. I have long lost interest in worldly affairs. Of course, the East Sea Empress couldn't tell the truth about Princess Qingqing. Immortal Emperor Gaochen thought that the Empress wanted to use Princess Qingqing to split the fortune gate. Seeing that the Thunderbolt Immortal rejected her, he pondered for a moment and nodded, "Forget it, if that's the case." The moment Immortal Emperor Gaochen spoke, the East Sea Empress immediately understood the outcome. She sighed inwardly. Perhaps she had the same intentions as Princess Zixia, but she didn't have no plans to seek happiness for Princess Qingqing. After all, whether it was Princess Qingqing, Princess Xinxin, or Princess Miao Miao, they were all her daughters. However, when she thought about how her words prevented Princess Qingqing from marrying into the Dongfang family and instead became Princess Miao Miao, the East Sea Empress didn't know whether to be happy or sad. Unfortunately, the East Sea Empress still underestimated her own daughter. Before Immortal Emperor Gaochen could finish speaking, Princess Qingqing flew out from the peony and screamed like a cuckoo, "Thunderbolt! You're full of nonsense. If you weren't interested in me, why did you take advantage of me that day? My chastity has been tarnished. How can I marry someone else? This is bad." Princess Zixia's expression changed when she heard this. She didn't expect Princess Qingqing to cut off all means of retreat and reveal the matter of her being taken advantage of in front of the four great sects. Back then, Princess Xinxin didn't reveal the whereabouts of half a heaven's heart. Immortal Emperor Gaochen lost face and banished her to the lower realm, where she was suppressed at the bottom of the Liao River. Now, Princess Qingqing's words angered him 100 times more than Princess Xinxin. Obviously, Immortal Emperor Gaochen couldn't do anything to the Thunderbolt Immortal and the Fortune Gate. Thus, he could only punish Princess Qingqing. Of course, there were only two outcomes for Princess Qingqing. One was to marry the Thunderbolt Immortal, and the other was to be suppressed, or even suppressed forever. P.S. After this chapter, there may be the final madness of God cultivation. Let's see how the battle prowess list goes. In addition, I thank everyone for supporting God cultivation. If everyone can enjoy this chapter to their heart's content, it will be the greatest gratification for the third place. At the same time, I use this opportunity to call for more readers to subscribe to the original version of this book. The third place doesn't ask for everyone to subscribe to the previous chapters, but I hope that everyone can start from the very beginning. The story of the immortal world and the desolate era is in everyone's hands. The third place tearfully asks for subscriptions. If the subscriptions exceed 1,000, the immortal world will be opened. If the monthly votes exceed 100, the next chapter will be opened. If the monthly votes exceed 1,000, the next chapter will be opened. How Xiaohua went against the light to become a saint completely depends on everyone. The third place thanks. Chapter 4674. Damn it! Xiaohua's expression changed. He didn't expect Princess Qingqing to be so vicious as to force him to abdicate. Thunderbolt Immortal. Thunderbolt Immortal. Princess Miao Miao, who was beside Princess Qingqing, was scared out of her wits. However, she finally came to her senses and hurriedly flew out. Please take pity on Qingqing. Ever since she fought with you at Dawn and Dawn Cliff, she has been thinking about you. Damn it! The Thunderbolt Immortal was furious. What does it have to do with me whether she thinks about me or not? The Thunderbolt Immortal's gentleness was naturally taught by Xiaohua. Now that he saw Princess Qingqing's ferocious expression trying to pester him, he was naturally anxious. The Thunderbolt Immortal's human nature wasn't perfect, so he naturally didn't know about asterisk 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 asterisk. Xiaohua originally wanted to send a voice transmission, but Princess Zixia hurriedly said in a low voice, "No, absolutely not. If Princess Qingqing comes to the Fortune Gate, our Fortune Gate will be in chaos." Thus, Xiaohua didn't say anything else and allowed the Thunderbolt Immortal to pester him endlessly. Humph. Immortal Emperor Gaoqian's expression darkened. After seeing the princess causing so much trouble, he scowled and glared at the Eastern Sea Queen standing next to him. Humph. The gathering hasn't even started yet, and Princess Qingqing has already caused so much trouble. Who knows where his face has been thrown to? Immortal Emperor Gaoqian scowled and glared at the Eastern Sea Queen. The East Sea Empress's face turned pale, and she lost her composure for a moment. Good, good, good. Princess Qingqing's face had already turned pale when she heard the Thunderbolt Immortal's ruthlessness. Kong. A rainbow sword appeared in her right hand as she wailed, "Since you don't want me, I no longer have the face to exist in this world. Thunderbolt Immortal, today, I'll die in front of you." As she said that, she pulled her right hand towards her neck and viciously cut it off. Everyone at the Jade Lake gathering was a supreme being. Stopping Princess Qingqing from committing suicide was as easy as flipping a hand. However, Xiaohua's divine sense suddenly stopped. Princess Zixia was right next to him. Princess Qingqing had always been Princess Zixia's greatest enemy. How could he attack her without Princess Zixia's permission? In particular, during the Jade Lake Conference, Immortal Emperor Goqian and the Eastern Sea Empress were the closest to Princess Qingqing. If the two of them didn't make a move, how could Xiaohua make a move? As for Princess Zixia, she sneered in her heart when she saw Princess Qingqing's reaction. She was very clear about Princess Qingqing's tricks. She knew that Princess Qingqing was relying on the fact that no one would let her die for no reason at the Jade Pool gathering. That was why she threatened the Thunderbolt Immortal with her death. If it was another occasion, Princess Qingqing would definitely use another method. Since Princess Zixia and Xiaohua had such thoughts, the Dipankara Archaic Buddha, the Maitreya Buddha, the Golden-Winged Great Rock, the Profound Armored Pentaceratops, Aoe, Aoqian, and even Dongfang Qianghao had such thoughts. As for the Eastern Sea Empress, she merely raised her hand and stopped. Although she felt sorry for Princess Qingqing, her thoughts were similar to Princess Zixia's. She also understood that the punishment Princess Qingqing was about to face might not be any better than death. If she tried to save her, Immortal Emperor Goqian would definitely be furious. She might as well let Immortal Emperor Goqian do it. This way, Princess Qingqing would receive less punishment. Princess Miao Miao's thoughts were similar to the Eastern Sea Empress. Although she was the closest to Princess Qingqing, her strength couldn't compare to Princess Qingqing's. Therefore, she anxiously looked at Immortal Emperor Goqian with pleading eyes. However, when the Azure Sword's Orochi landed on Princess Qingqing's snow-white neck, a trace of blood flowed out. Seeing that Princess Qingqing's beautiful head was about to be chopped off, Princess Miao Miao suddenly realized that the mean and scheming Princess Qingqing, who never allowed herself to be in danger, was serious this time. How? How is this possible? Princess Miao Miao instantly felt that this was extremely absurd. At the same time, she cried out in shock, "Qingqing!" Princess Zixia's thoughts were different from Princess Miao Miao's. She didn't think that Princess Qingqing would fall in love with the Thunderbolt Enlightened Master after meeting him once. However, she still couldn't watch Princess Qingqing commit suicide in front of her. She hurriedly urged, "Hurry up and save." Xiaohua was already accumulating his aura. When he heard Princess Zixia's order, he didn't even hear it clearly and immediately sent out his divine sense. However, before Xiaohua's divine sense could settle down, boom, boom, boom. A series of loud explosions rang out around Princess Qingqing. That space instantly collapsed. The fluctuations of magic power, the righteous qi of the Confucian cultivators, the power of the stars and moon of the Yao clan, and even the Buddhist light all shattered at the same time. It turned out that when Xiaohua made his move, the Maitreya Buddha, the Golden-Winged Great Pong, and the others also made their moves at the same time. The result was, no one was able to stop Princess Qingqing from committing suicide. The azure sword had already landed on Princess Qingqing's neck. Blood splattered everywhere. Damn it! Xiao Hua's figure blurred without hesitation and disappeared into thin air. However, it was already too late for him to make his move. Princess Qingqing wasn't the slightest bit attracted by the commotion around her. She only stared at the Thunderbolt Enlightened Master. Apart from risking everything in her suicide attempt, her heart was truly dead. Her eyes were filled with despair, helplessness, and desire as she stared at the Thunderbolt Enlightened Master. Unfortunately, the Thunderbolt Enlightened Master's eyes didn't change at all. He only looked at her indifferently as if he was someone unrelated to her. Alas, forget it. I'll just let this life pass. In the future, I won't join the imperial family anymore. Princess Qingqing's final thought was born. What Princess Qingqing didn't know was that the Thunderbolt Enlightened Master's heart felt like it was being pricked by needles. Traces of understanding appeared in his lifeless eyes. It seemed like he was in pain, but also seemed like he was worried. Just as Princess Qingqing was feeling disappointed, the Thunderbolt Enlightened Master's figure blurred and disappeared along with Xiao Hua. The simultaneous attack of several supreme beings was extremely powerful. The collapsed space blocked everyone's attempts to rescue Princess Qingqing. Even people as strong as Xiao Hua and the Thunderbolt Enlightened Master were unable to break through. It seemed that Princess Qingqing was really going to die. Right at this moment, an unexpected event occurred. A pitch-black silhouette of an insect that was over 10 meters in size flashed out from the collapsed space, and then a string of silhouettes that were almost 10 meters in size flashed before everyone's eyes. Swoosh! All of them struck Princess Qingqing's right cheek, azure bow sword, and even her right arm. There was no exception. A piece of Princess Qingqing's face was sliced off, the azure bow sword was slashed into two, and even her right arm and shoulder were sliced off. Princess Qingqing didn't move at all. She immediately fainted and her delicate body fell towards the bug shadow. Who is this? Everyone at the Jade Pool was shocked. The appearance of this shadow was too strange. There were no fluctuations of magic power or spatial fluctuations. It just flew out so strangely that no one noticed it. World-destroying bug? Of course, it only took a moment for the supreme beings to see it clearly. They all turned pale with fright. How did it get here? At this moment, Xiao Hua had already broken through the void fragment and appeared near the bug. He saw Princess Qingqing's body fall towards the bug, and the bug didn't hesitate to slash its sickle-like tentacles at Princess Qingqing's waist. He raised his hand without hesitation. Boom! A pale golden fist flew out and hit the bug with lightning speed. Shwa! The fist landed on the strange insect's body, and the strange insect's body was immediately smashed. But at the same time, the strange insect's body swelled up again. Of course, it only flashed a few times. Pung! With a loud sound, the strange insect's body exploded. In the explosion, a lightning flashed and the Thunderbolt Enlightened Master's figure appeared. He frowned slightly and raised his hand to catch Princess Qingqing. Looking at the blood gushing out of Princess Qingqing's missing right arm and the pain between her brows, the Thunderbolt Enlightened Master had an indescribable feeling. The Thunderbolt Enlightened Master didn't hesitate. He raised his hand and pointed at Princess Qingqing's body. The gushing blood naturally stopped. At the same time, the Thunderbolt Enlightened Master took out an elixir and put it into Princess Qingqing's mouth. Once the elixir entered her mouth, color slowly returned to her face. Then, the Thunderbolt Enlightened Master raised his hand again and took out the severed arm that had fallen into the Jade Pool. He looked at it and was about to reattach it. Cough, cough. Xiao Hua saw this and hurriedly coughed twice. He reminded, fellow Thunderbolt Enlightened Master, men and women shouldn't touch each other. Earlier, you were a little rude. Today, we'll save Princess Qingqing. As for the treatment, let the Immortal Palace handle it. Okay. Hearing this, the Thunderbolt Enlightened Master looked around and waved his hand, sending Princess Qingqing and her severed arm to Princess Miao Miao. Just as the Thunderbolt Enlightened Master was about to speak, he heard a panicked cry from under the peonies. What is this? The Thunderbolt Enlightened Master looked up and saw a group of fist-sized insects flying out of the void beside the group of maidservants who were playing the music. When they saw the maidservants, they waved their serrated tentacles. Many of the insects even waved their hind legs and looked at the maidservants. These maidservants were clearly caught off guard. They all wanted to use their abilities to block, but they didn't dare to make too much of a fuss. Thus, most of them hurriedly dodged. These strange insects were about the size of a human fist, and their tentacles and hind legs were extremely sharp. The maids were no match for them. Wherever the tentacles and hind legs passed, not only were the maids' palace robes torn, even their skin was injured. The most serious injuries were to the bone. Damn it! Seeing these maidservants injured, the Thunderbolt Enlightened Master's heart couldn't help but feel pain. He cursed and waved his hand, sending out waves of lightning that accurately hit the hundreds of strange insects. Boom, boom, boom. All of the strange insects rapidly expanded, producing dark green fog. However, once the fog was produced, the bodies of the strange insects couldn't shrink and they exploded one after another. Fellow Taoist, the Thunderbolt Enlightened Master retracted his gaze from the chaotic maidservants and looked at Princess Ching-Ching, who was taken away by Princess Meow Meow. He asked in his heart, Is this love? Xiao Hua's heart was filled with mixed feelings. He naturally hoped that the Thunderbolt Enlightened Master would have humanity and become an independent person. However, he didn't want the Thunderbolt Enlightened Master's love to fall on a woman like Princess Ching-Ching. Seeing Princess Ching-Ching, Xiao Hua couldn't help but think of Chen Yi from Dawn Rain Continent. He knew that Princess Ching-Ching's love for the Thunderbolt Enlightened Master was just a type of use. Love is very complicated. Xiao Hua naturally couldn't explain this most complicated emotion of the human race. He could only say half-heartedly, You still need to experience it yourself. However, I feel that it's better for you to leave. It was a pity that he had only said half a sentence in his heart. Buzz. Waves of tsunami-like sounds resounded from the surroundings of the Jade Lake. A kind of fluctuation that Xiao Hua was familiar with came from the source of this sound, and it surged towards him from all directions. This fluctuation attacked the Naiwan Palace. Just as it appeared, many maidservants had already fallen. Xiao Hua's divine sense swept over, and he couldn't help but be shocked. He saw that the entire space was filled with strange insects of different sizes. Among these strange insects, the small ones were as small as ink dots, while the large ones were more than 10 feet long. All of them flapped their wings and pounced towards the Jade Lake. Their targets were either human or demon cultivators, or Buddhist light, lightning, or the power of the stars and moon. Damn it! Xiao Hua didn't have time to explain to the Thunderbolt Enlightened Master what love was. He cursed in his heart, and his figure flashed, landing on the throne of creation. Looking at the countless strange insects wreaking havoc in the space, Xiao Hua narrowed his eyes and pondered in his heart. It seems like this Zhao's guess was correct. The black dots that I saw in the eye of the Western Sea that year were these strange insects. If that's the case, these strange insects didn't attack from the borders of the 3 continents, but from the spatial meridians of the 3 continents. In other words, the defensive line that we discussed before was completely meaningless. Since these strange insects could attack the space where the Lingyun Side Palace is located, they can naturally attack any place in the 3 continents and 4 seas. Now, we have to face many defenses. It's time to fight to the death. Immortal Emperor Gaochen was originally angered by Princess Ching-Ching to the point of 1 Buddha coming into being and 2 Buddhas going through nirvana. When Princess Ching-Ching committed suicide, he, who was the most qualified and most likely to help, instead coldly watched and didn't do anything. This was because in his eyes, Princess Ching-Ching truly acted on her own and reaped what she sowed. Not only did she lose face, but the reputation of the Immortal Palace was also smeared. Princess Ching-Ching's suicide was her best choice. However, when he saw the appearance of the strange insects and the changes that occurred, Immortal Emperor Gaochen coldly snorted and thought that he was lucky. After all, these strange insects were an excellent excuse, especially when Xiao Hua and the Thunderbolt Immortal made a move. It was also a good way out. However, before Immortal Emperor Gaochen could say anything, even more strange insects attacked, not giving him a chance to speak. Seeing the panicked maids, Immortal Emperor Gauchen was somewhat angry. He slapped the phantom of the golden throne below him. Boom, boom, boom. A huge explosion resounded as a beam of light that resembled a dragon or tiger rushed into the sky. Bang, bang, bang. Countless fine explosions resounded. In the space to the north where the Confucian cultivators were located, an area of several thousand feet in size, all of the strange insects were killed. Calm down, calm down. Immortal Emperor Gauchen's oppressive voice resounded in the Jade Lake. This is the Jade Lake Gathering. All the Supremes are here. What are you afraid of? Unfortunately, before Immortal Emperor Gauchen could finish, a miserable scream resounded. Below the peony bush that was the furthest away from Immortal Emperor Gauchen, a strange insect that was several zhang long strangely rushed out from the void. Its sharp hind legs, in the blink of an eye, chopped off the arm of a maid with a low cultivation. The maid screamed and fainted. At the same time, the strange insect's tail came out from the maid's back and stabbed into her heart. There was a flash of blood at the tip of the tail, and the woman's chest withered instantly. Namo Amitba. To the side, Namo Wisdom Manjushri didn't dare to be careless. He quickly chanted a Buddhist chant and formed a mudra with both hands. Boom! A Buddhist light flowed and entered the strange insect's body. The entire body of the strange insect seemed to be plated with this Buddhist light. It was golden and dazzling. Then, its entire body suddenly expanded. In the blink of an eye, the strange insect was more than 10 feet in size. At the same time, a layer of dark green mist seeped out from the grayish-white spots on the strange insect's body. Then, its body shrank rapidly. However, it stopped after shrinking for a few feet. Chirp, chirp. The strange insect made a hissing sound as if it was happy. It abandoned the maid and pounced on Manjushri Bodhisattva. This Nanwu wise Manjushri is surprised when he sees the light of Buddha around the strange insect. The green mist is intertwined with the light of Buddha, and it looks very weird. He knew that his cultivation was not enough, but he really didn't expect that his Buddhist mudra not only didn't harm the strange insect, but also allowed it to evolve. Amidst his astonishment, Namo Wisdom Manjushri raised his hand and touched the light behind his head. A strand of faith light turned into a sword ray and entered the strange insect's body. Namo Wisdom Manjushri didn't believe that a strange insect could bear the power of faith of the Buddhism sect. However, Namo Wisdom Manjushri still underestimated the magical power of this strange insect. As the faith light fell, the strange insect's body immediately became transparent. Layers of Buddhist light seeped in from the outside. Then, a light shadow like a Buddha statue appeared in the strange insect's body. At this time, the strange insect's body expanded again. 150 feet, 200 feet, 300 feet. Namomethreya. Seeing that the strange insect's body was expanding and the light shadow of the Buddha statue in its body was becoming clearer, Namomethreya put his palms together and chanted a Buddhist chant. Buddha in all living things is nothing more than this. Although this strange insect came from the outer region, with the Buddhist light and faith, it can also become a Buddha. Boom! Amidst the Maitreya Buddha's chanting, the strange insect finally couldn't control its body that was swollen by the power of faith and finally exploded. While Namo Wisdom Manjushri was killing the strange insect, Sunjian, Heavenly King Qingyu, and Heavenly King Fuyu were also enraged by Immortal Emperor Gauchen. They quickly flew out and waved their weapons to kill the strange insect. At the same time, they also ordered the guards outside of the Jade Lake to come in and resist. Rumble. At the location of the golden-winged Pong and the black-armored Pentaceratops, waves of cold power of the stars and moon shot up to the sky like pillars of light. Under these pillars of light, all the strange insects were killed. Even the Armageddon strange insects that were attracted by the light pillar of stars and moon rapidly expanded and exploded when they came into contact with the power of the stars and moon. If the pillars of light of the demon race's great saint were so powerful, then there was no need to mention Xiaohua's lightning. The lightning was like tens of millions of flying swords and instantly killed all the strange insects south of the Jade Lake. Although the Dragon Island and the Buddhist sect also used their methods to kill most of the strange insects that appeared before the Immortal Palace, the Great Sage Hall, and the Fortune Gate, the strange insects seemed to be endless. They rushed out of the void like moths to a flame and pounced on the divine abilities of the Supremes. Immortal Emperor Go Chin's expression was very ugly. After he shouted, "Calm down," he didn't say anything else and only watched everything that was happening at the Jade Lake with a heavy expression. Of course, the immortal soldiers and generals of the Immortal Palace were also well trained. At the beginning, it was only the maids with weak cultivation who panicked. After the immortal soldiers and generals appeared, they began to organize an effective defense and gradually killed the strange insects. "Your Majesty," Xiao Hua urged the lightning to protect the southern region. Seeing the countless strange insects flying out, he thought of something and said with a smile, "Earlier, I told you about the strength of these strange insects and also mentioned how to kill them. I'm sure your Majesty can see that the Supremes didn't believe me. Now that these strange insects have come to disturb the gathering at the Jade Lake, isn't this a chance for us to test them?" "Humph." Immortal Emperor Go Chun snorted coldly. It was obvious that he still held a grudge against the Thunderbolt Immortal. However, after he snorted, he said, "Heavenly King Qingyu, set up the formations. Use the Cloud Mist formation, the Tiger Roar formation, and the Flying Crane formation to deal with the attacks of the strange insects. Let's see how strong these strange insects are and what methods can be used to kill them." "Yes, your Majesty." Hearing this, Heavenly King Qing, you didn't dare to be negligent and hurriedly ordered, "Everyone, release the Cloud Mist formation." Yes, the immortal soldiers and generals blocked and killed the strange insects while flying and forming an origin formation. As soon as the origin formation was formed, countless mighty pillars of chi fell from the sky. Layers of clouds emerged from the nearby space and shrouded the strange insects like clouds. Swish, swish, swish. Wherever the clouds passed, it was as if thousands of guillotines were chopping down. The strange insects that were enveloped by the clouds were all cut in half. The corpses of the strange insects fell down like leaves. "I don't think this will work," Xiao Hua said indifferently. "Not necessarily." Immortal Emperor Gaochen replied coldly, "My Immortal Palace's Cloud Mist formation." Unfortunately, before Immortal Emperor Gochun could finish his words, rustle, 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 the millions of insect corpses that had yet to fall into the Jade Lake suddenly emitted strange ripples. Then, the two halves of the insect corpses came back to life. These shapeless insects formed a formation, and like a black fog, they fell onto the Jade Lake. Zzz. Strange noises appeared again as the space above the Jade Lake began to shatter. These strange insects were actually devouring the Heaven-Earth origin chi and other things attached to the space. The East Sea Empress frowned and raised her hand to summon the Jade Lake's waves. However, Immortal Emperor Gaochen ordered indifferently, "Don't be hasty. Don't kill them yet." Master Xiaolei is right. The strange insects attacking the Jade Lake is indeed a disappointing matter, but it is also a rare opportunity. Everyone here is the Supremes of the various sects, so there is no suspense about the outcome of this battle. Let's see. What kind of ability these strange insects have to destroy the world? "Yes, your Majesty." The East Sea Empress nodded and stared at the strange insects above the Jade Lake. The insects were densely packed and most of them were only a few inches in size. However, as Immortal Emperor Gaochen spoke, these strange insects had already devoured the space. Waves of strange ripples came from other parts of the space as the Heaven-Earth origin chi automatically repaired the spatial cracks. Strands of grayish-black light appeared above the Jade Lake's waves. When the light appeared, some of the strange insects were sucked into the light and disappeared. However, even more of them flapped their wings and pounced on the Jade Lake's waves. Chirp, chirp, chirp. Like silkworms devouring mulberry leaves, the Jade Lake's waves dropped by half a foot. Chirp, chirp. When the strange insects recovered, they screeched and rushed into the sky again. They either pounced on the immortal soldiers and immortal generals, or the pearls formed by the Heaven-Earth origin chi. None of them were quiet. Heavenly King Fu Yu's expression slightly changed when he saw the strange insects rampaging again. He looked at Heavenly King Qing Yu and waved his hand, ordering, "Brothers, set up the tiger roar formation." Yes, the immortal soldiers and immortal generals received the order and moved their bodies to change the formation again. A moment later, a tricolored origin formation appeared above the Jade Lake. Roar! A roar came from the origin formation as a shadow that was several thousand feet tall flew out with the roar. This shadow looked like a tiger but was not one. It had a pair of wings on its back. The moment this shadow appeared, thousands of vast chi pillars fell from the sky. Then, the shadow gradually solidified and pounced on the strange insects that were like black clouds. Wherever this tiger shadow passed, the space was also torn apart. All the auras were disturbed as a chilling aura shrouded the nearby area. Unfortunately, the strange insects that were shrouded were not afraid of death. As soon as the tiger-shaped shadow solidified, they began to fly toward the shadow. Even the strange insects that were not shrouded were attracted by the aura of the Great Spirit Pillar. They spread their wings and flew out. Puff, puff, puff. Wherever the shadow landed, tens of thousands of strange insects were killed. They either turned into powder or were smashed into pieces. There were even more that were torn apart. After the shadow, the strange insects that were attracted to it swarmed over and landed everywhere on the shadow. Rustle, rustle, rustle. The sound of leaves being eaten was heard again. The tiger shadow suddenly became much dimmer. Damn it! Immortal Emperor Go-chan saw this and knew that the tiger roar formation was not effective either. Everyone. Heavenly King Qing Yu also frowned and gave the order to change the formation again. In the time it took to eat a meal, the Immortal Palace set up 10 different origin formations. Although the effects of each origin formation were different, none of the origin formations were very effective. Moreover, after the time it took to eat a meal, the strange insects that were only a few feet tall had grown to dozens of feet tall. They were much more powerful than before. Rather than saying that the Immortal Palace was testing the strange insects, it was more accurate to say that the Immortal Palace was using the origin formations to feed the strange insects. Finally, Xiao Hua raised his voice and said, "Your Majesty, the immortal soldiers and immortal generals should form an origin formation to fight against the world-destroying strange insects rather than fighting alone. However, if you want to have the same effect as dealing with ordinary strange insects, it's impossible. Based on my previous experience of fighting against strange insects, I'm afraid that I can only use the heaven and earth essence energy that exceeds the absorption limit of the strange insects to stuff them to death. The question is, where is the absorption limit of these strange insects?" Aoi also frowned and said, "Back then, after the strange insects appeared in the stacked Jade Legacy Realm, the elders of my Dragon Island also discussed this matter. According to the description of the escaped dragons, this thing seems to be even more powerful than Long Sea. The damage of the body and the attacks of Dharma powers are all ineffective. Only the dragon aura can explode it." Everyone, please wait a moment. When the golden-winged roc heard this, he said, "Let me see if this strange insect can devour the power of the stars and moon." As he spoke, the golden-winged roc waved his wings. A thumb-sized pillar of starlight and moonlight emerged from his body and pierced towards a strange insect like a sword. Sage Roc, the Lord of the East Ocean, Aoqian, did not know whether to laugh or cry. He pointed at the Demon Mountain peak with his dragon claw and said, "Why are you testing it? Aren't there already thousands of strange insects devouring the pillar of starlight and moonlight above your head?" Boom! The golden-winged roc naturally ignored Aoqian. The pillar of starlight and moonlight landed on the strange insect. The strange insect also suddenly expanded and produced a dark green fog. Its body slowly shrank. It was obvious that it was devouring the pillar of starlight and moonlight. However, in just a moment, the strange insect's body exploded. "Damn it! This is troublesome." The golden-winged roc shouted, "It's not a problem for me to kill these strange insects. It should not be a problem for those demon kings and great demons, but what about ordinary demon generals? This strange insect really has the ability to destroy the world." Xiaohua smiled coldly and said, "Of course. Otherwise, how could we have seen the apocalyptic warning sign when we were in Longevity Town? Humph. Even if it has the ability to destroy the world. So what? Immortal Emperor Gauchen was still disdainful towards the strange insect. All living things in the world have the ability to reinforce and counter each other. Although these strange insects are powerful, they definitely have a weakness. It's just that we don't know about it. Moreover, within the 3 continents, the strongest is at the peak of 9th level essence energy. No matter how many of these strange insects there are. At this point, Immortal Emperor Gauchen was suddenly shocked. He seemed to have thought of something and shut his mouth. What Immortal Emperor Gauchen thought of, Xiaohua and the others also thought of. Everyone's expression changed. After all, there were too many strange insects to count. Who could guarantee that there wouldn't be any monsters at the peak of 9th level essence energy? If there were only 1 or 2 peak-level strange insects, they would not be afraid. However, with so many strange insects, how many peak-level strange insects would appear? At this moment, everyone had some understanding. Just these low-level strange insects might not be able to trigger the apocalyptic warning sign. There must be many peak-level strange insects appearing to trigger the apocalyptic warning sign. Namo Maitreya Buddha. Namo Maitreya Buddha placed his palms together and said, "My Buddha is merciful. There is a Tao in heaven and earth. There will always be a trace of life in the midst of all difficulties. Although these strange insects are powerful, your Majesty is right. Heavenly horses also have a weakness. Today is a good opportunity. Let's take a look at these strange insects and see where their weakness is." When he heard up to here, Xiaohua suddenly thought in his heart as he recalled the strange mosquito he'd encountered in the exquisite pagoda that overturned illusions while he was in the ruins. That day, when Xiaohua subdued the mosquito, he asked it a question. That question was, other than using more heaven and earth essence energy than you can bear to make you explode, other than your natural enemy, what other methods are there to kill you? The reason why Xiaohua asked this question was because he had encountered a strange insect before. The strength of the strange insect made Xiaohua shudder. Therefore, when Xiaohua saw a mosquito that looked similar to the strange insect, he couldn't help but ask about it. That mosquito didn't seem to be willing to answer, but it was forced by Xiaohua to say a few methods. At that time, Xiaohua secretly shook his head. He felt that those methods were too harsh. The reason was that to kill the mosquito, it needed a different kind of heaven and earth essence energy. Because strange insects like the mosquito and the strange insect ate heaven and earth essence energy, they could devour all kinds of heaven and earth essence energy. Who knew what kind of heaven and earth essence energy was different to them? Therefore, Xiaohua let the mosquito go. Now, when he encountered the strange insect again, Xiaohua naturally thought of this. However, with all the sovereigns present, the heaven and earth essence energy, the righteous energy, the power of the stars and moon, the power of faith, the Buddha's light, and so on, they all appeared at the jade pool. These strange insects also had a strange appetite. They devoured all kinds of true energy, so they weren't afraid of having a bad appetite. However, since this was a method to kill the strange insect, Xiaohua couldn't not tell the sovereigns. Therefore, Xiaohua hurriedly said, "Everyone, since these strange insects devour true energy, we can only rely on true energy to make them explode. Then let's think about it another way. If there is any true energy that the strange insect can't devour, wouldn't it be killed?" Wonderful. The golden-winged great Peng clapped and shouted, "Dragon Teacher Zhao's idea is really unimaginable. Let me think. Besides the power of the stars and moon, what else do I know?" Cuckoo. As the golden-winged great Peng spoke, his entire abdomen suddenly emitted a strange sound. Then, the golden-winged great Peng opened his mouth again. Woo! A demonic energy mixed with purple and gold rushed out, piercing through the void and directly piercing into the shell of a strange insect that was a few feet in size. A cluster of red lotus hellfire flickered, and the power of reincarnation fell on several strange insects. Boom! Where the red lotus hellfire fell, the strange insect's shell was immediately ignited. Gigi! The strange insect hissed, as if it was in pain. Seeing this, Xiaohua and the others couldn't help but be overjoyed. However, right at this moment, the green mist gushed out from the strange insect's shell once again, extinguishing the red lotus hellfire. Moreover, after the hellfire was extinguished, it didn't disappear. Instead, it transformed into wisps of blood-red viscous substance that seeped into the strange insect's shell, causing the strange insect to swell up once again. Umitba, Umitba. The Dipankara archaic Buddha raised his brows and exclaimed in shock. He knew that if the strange insect could even devour the power of reincarnation, the Thunderclap Temple wouldn't have any methods to restrain it. Kill! The Thunderbolt Immortal roared. He raised his hand, and sword-like lightning flashed, killing the strange insect on behalf of the Dipankara archaic Buddha. Oh! Xiaohua looked at the Thunderbolt Immortal strangely. If it was in the past, the Thunderbolt Immortal might consider for himself or the Fortune Gate's disciples. However, he would never consider for others. Now, the Thunderbolt Immortal actually thought that the Dipankara archaic Buddha was the Buddha Lord, and that it wasn't appropriate for him to commit murder. Instead, he killed the strange insect on behalf of the Dipankara archaic Buddha. Wasn't this the sign of his awakening? However, after the Thunderbolt Immortal killed the strange insect, he retracted his hand and calmly stood at the side. Taoist, would you like to give it a try? Xiaohua looked at the heavenly being and smiled. Your three lights augmenting thunder might be the nemesis of these strange insects. That's right. I'll go take a look. Hearing this, the heavenly being smiled proudly and flew out of the mountain peak. Seeing the heavenly being flying out, a swarm of strange insects immediately pounced on him. These strange insects emitted extremely faint yet powerful fluctuations that surrounded the heavenly being. The heavenly being's expression didn't change. He let out a long roar and revealed his 3 heads and 6 arms. Roar! The 3 heads opened their mouths and shot out 3 light pillars. Pa 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 pa. Wherever the light pillars passed, tens of thousands of strange insects would swell and explode. Of course, it was only swell. None of them were destroyed due to the difference in the true chi contained within the light pillars. Gotcha! Seeing that the 3 light pillars didn't have any effect, the heavenly being couldn't help but feel angry. He raised his 6 arms at the same time, and dozens of different colored lightning balls appeared out of thin air and landed around him. Rumble! In the huge rumbling sound, the strange insects that pounced on the heavenly being were all killed, and Xiaohua also saw clearly that these strange insects were all swell and explode. Damn it, this is really strange. The heavenly being cursed. His figure flashed, and he landed beside the throne of creation again. He said, even this daddy's method is useless. Then in these 3 continents, where can there be heaven and earth origin energy that these strange insects can't devour? Seeing that the heavenly being's method was also useless, Xiaohua couldn't help but feel a chill in his heart. No one knew better than him that the heavenly being's method came from the immortal realm. The divine ability that he cultivated was from the heavenly being clan. If his method couldn't easily kill these strange insects, then in the entire 3 continents, there really wasn't any method that could easily kill these strange insects. Maybe, Xiaohua thought to himself, only soul cultivation methods. Thinking about soul cultivation methods, Xiaohua smiled wryly. He had encountered these strange insects when he was condensing his nascent soul in the void. Although he was only a nascent soul at that time, and the strange insects were only a few feet long, he had already used the lightning flash and thunder roll technique, and the lightning bolts activated by the green seal characters were also devoured by the strange insects. Now that Xiaohua's soul cultivation had reached grand completion, he could easily kill these strange insects, and even soul cultivation methods could easily kill them, but he couldn't find the insect's weakness from the root. Let's give it a try. Xiaohua didn't give up. He waved his hand, and the soul cultivator's 3 corpses in thunder fell down. Rumble. The strange insects in the distance were killed, but there were no signs that they would be destroyed upon contact. Clearly, this was not a method that Xiaohua wanted to use. Then, Aoe, Aoqian, the black armored Pentaceratops, Maitreya Buddha, and the world sovereign all used their own secret techniques to investigate, but unfortunately, it was not ideal. Take a look at my methods. Immortal Emperor Gaochen saw that everyone was somewhat helpless and finally said, "After my immortal palace obtained the 5 Qis origin technique, I also benefited a lot. The 5 Qis of my Confucian cultivation are the foundation of heaven and earth, the foundation of humanity, so it must be different from ordinary heaven and earth origin energy." "Your Majesty's words are reasonable." Xiaohua gave him a high hat and said with a smile, "I will wait for your Majesty's methods." Humph! Immortal Emperor Gaochen raised his hand and patted the crown on his head. Boom! A 5-colored Qi pillar gushed out, and then the 5-colored Qi pillar brushed down from the sky, turning into hundreds of thousands of tiny Qi pillars. These Qi pillars were like needles that pierced into the bodies of the 100,000 strange insects. Woo! The 5-colored Qi entered the bodies of the strange insects, and the bodies of the strange insects immediately swelled up. Moreover, the moment they swelled up, some of them were dark green, some of them were like gray fog, and all of them were seen gushing out. Boom! The bodies of these strange insects swelled up a lot, and then they all exploded. P.S. After this chapter, there might be the final madness of God cultivation. Let's see the situation of the battle power rankings. In addition, I thank everyone for supporting God cultivation all this time. This time, if everyone can enjoy reading to their heart's content, that would be the greatest gratification of the 3rd place. At the same time, I take this opportunity to once again call for more readers to subscribe to the original version of this book. The 3rd place does not ask for everyone to subscribe to the previous chapters, but I hope that everyone can start from the last chapter. The story of the immortal world and the desolate age is in everyone's hands. The 3rd place tearfully asks for subscriptions. If the subscriptions exceed 1,000, the immortal world will be opened. Next, I ask for monthly votes. If the monthly votes exceed 100, I will add more chapters. Third, I ask for recommendation support. If the recommendation exceeds 1,000, I will add more chapters. How Xiaohua went against the light to become a saint. It is completely up to everyone. The 3rd place thanks. You're tuning in to the Warrior Lore YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.